double checking. Yeah, we got mic audio coming in. Looks like it's coming in good. Discord we got ready. We're looking to try to do a little bit of promoting here as we get the stream started before we actually start the recording as well. And we're looking to have our resident Packers fan, Penguin Goats, come in as well. So hopefully we'll have another person here in shortly. I'm double checking that my YouTube video is running correctly. Yep. Looks good. Sounds like the audio is coming through clearly as well. Hey, there's my Packers fan. We got to figure out how to get you in here. I dropped a comment to Grossi Penguin, and I don't know if it was him or like an assistant, but they shot me a Telegram message basically saying, "Hey, send me a message. I'll send you a gift." So we'll see. I invited Grossi to drop into the stream. Not audio wise. Of course, I'd love to have him audio wise, but I doubt he's coming. We're just doing a little bit of promoting here real quick before we actually jump into the stream, if that's okay. Trying to, of course, build a little bit of an audience before we actually start the talks. Yeah. Tom Grassi. See what I said. But are you going to join me in a voice chat today, Penguin? Whoever my other view is, thanks for dropping in. We're going to get started here real soon. We're just doing a little bit of promoting and trying to build an audience before we actually get started here. All right, we got Twitter up. We got a Facebook up. I'm going to do one last thing on Facebook. I have another Packers fan. I'm going to see if he wants to drop into YouTube chat as well. Let's see. There's my boy. All right, sent my message to my buddy. We're gonna close Twitter and all that, and we're gonna prep our slideshow. My title's gone. Give me one moment here. Okay. All right. I think we're ready. I don't have the voice chat. I hate to tell you, but I don't want to. Oh, no, that's fine, Penguin. Whatever you're comfortable with, I'm just glad that you're here. And, I really appreciate you dropping every day. 5:07. Penguin, would you mind if we waited maybe 3 more minutes? 5:10 get started officially. To whoever my second viewer is, again, thanks for dropping in. Are you part of Packers Nation? You part of the Grossi Posse? Lambeau Stadium. What a stadium, by the way. I would love to be able to go to one game at Lambeau, to be honest. And I don't want to go to a warm game. I want to go to it's snowing. They're willing to, give you tickets because you're help with shoveling snow. I want to go to that kind of game if I'm going to Lambeau. I don't know about y'all, but and thank you very much, Penguin. I appreciate it. And whoever my other viewers, I appreciate your patience as well. Once we hit 5:10 here Eastern time, we're going to get officially started. And I'm going to try to also, again, try to keep this a little more professional and in a setup somewhat that maybe I can attempt to load this up to Audacity and all that as a podcast. But man, Packer fans, it's not as bad as I originally thought. Like I said, we talked about. Oh, it's Gunny. Hey, Gunny's back. Thanks for coming, Gunny. Like we talked about yesterday, I feel like the Packers are not nearly as bad of a situation as I feel like the Buffalo Bills were, cap wise. I'm gonna be really interested, Penguin, for your takes here. I am because we have a little bit of flexibility here in this roster. Um, we can keep guys, we can let guys go. Green Bay can actually be pretty competitive in an offer or two, probably on some high level free agents. So, it's going to be about really building that Jordan Love story and that Jordan Love hype. And like we talked a little bit later last night, I'm not sure if you were there. We talked about, this could be one just like Baltimore. You either get a quarterback with a short window or you have arguably the best roster in the NFL or especially your conference. And I don't care what Chimera was saying last night. I'm telling you, if we do everything right here, Green Bay with Jordan Love surprises everyone and takes the NFC North next year. And actually, I'm going to go really bold prediction here. Green Bay takes the NFC North next year. Runner up and another potential playoff contender, the Chicago Bears. I could have the Chicago Bears finishing above the Minnesota Vikings. It's just one of those ones. That team is on the back of Justin Jefferson, in my opinion. And I don't have a lot of faith that they're going to continue. And they're kind of trying to enter a Super Bowl window. And I don't have that kind of faith in Kirk Cousins. I don't care what anyone says. But, all right, so it's 5:10 here. We're going to officially get started. Do you like my coaster? The Ravens helmet. But all right. So, I didn't hit the record button. All right, guys. With that being said, we are officially back today with the request to do the off-season plan, Green Bay Packers edition, requested by our native here in the chat, Penguin Goats. Penguin's not going to be joining me on voice chat today, like Chimera did yesterday for the Buffalo Bills, but Chimera is going to be very active in chat because Chimera is always there. I'm sorry, Penguin Goats. My apologies. Penguin Goats. Very sorry about that. But third viewer, thanks for dropping in. And like I said, with that being said, we're going to get officially started here with the offseason plan for the Green Bay Packers. Um, as we talked a little bit about yesterday, this is not going to be nearly as bad, in my opinion, as what I had to do for the Buffalo Bills yesterday. I walked into this, expecting it's because saw some void contracts in some of these, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But I thought this cap situation was going to be way worse than it was. And I mean, if we're here yesterday and you can see my presentation as well, the amount of free agents that we're having to retain to basically keep the team pretty similar is nothing compared to the Buffalo Bills. So, of course, on screen, guys, we got key free agents as well as snap percentages, because I feel like the snap percentages are a very important to tell if you don't truly know the team here. So we're going to start at the top here with the restricted free agents. That basically means, you can tender them, you can sign them to long-term deals, but they're really not going anywhere. And that's good news for the Green Bay Packers. Their tackle, Yusuf Nijman, played basically 69% of the snaps. He's going to be getting on our books. We're going to, of course, tender him. It's going to be a first or second round tender. We're making sure he doesn't go anywhere. He could be the future tackle, from my understanding there, and he gives a lot of solidity to that tackle position, even if he's just a backup. The other two restricted free agents we have on the roster are going to be Chris Barnes and Tyler Davis, linebacker and tight end, both playing approximately 15% of the snaps there. We're going to keep Tyler Davis based on what we see as OTC, over the cap calculations, not only on their current pay, but future pay and what we'll call it OTC evaluation. You'll see it quite a bit here in these slides. And what we're talking about there is basically what their play was valued at contractually wise. So Tyler Davis is going to be kind of what I think we're moving for as a tight end forward, because we're actually, and this is one of those ones where we talked about, Green Bay has a lot of room to work here. So I'm going to lean back here so you can see we're actually going to let Mercedes Lewis, I think he's like 38, he's pretty old, go, as well as Robert Tonyan. Now, Tonyan did play pretty good. We could also, do a move there, Tonyan for Davis. But as we're going to talk about here later, we're really going to attack tight end heavily. We're kind of going to follow the exact mold here that we've did for the Buffalo Bills. We're looking for 3 wide receivers and a really good tight end. So real quick, Adrian Amos, we're just going to let him walk to free agency. He's going to be one of the ones we talk about with void contracts. Dean Lowry played actually pretty well, played almost like 50% of the snaps. Amos, of course, played almost every snap for the Green Bay Packers. But it's just one of those ones, this is going to be a very heavy safety. And for the money and the contract that he has, is probably just going to happen. Dean Lowry, we're going to let him walk, but he could easily come back. The Packers are going to, of course, have to address the kicker situation with Mason Crosby, the kicker, coming up. As we talked about, we're letting Lewis walk. We're not letting Lazard hit free agency. We're willing to pay him a pretty good amount. Of course, it could get a little crazy in free agency, but we're going to have a decent amount of money already allocated towards Lazard that we're going to keep him and Watson together for quite some time. At least 3 more years. Jerron Reed, the inside defensive lineman, we're going to bring him back. He played from OTC's evaluation really well, especially for number-wise, so we're going to work out a deal with him. Keyshawn Nixon, the cornerback, we're bringing him back. Played about 28% of the snaps. Seems like a really good depth, kind of like corner guy. And Justin Hollins, the edge rusher, 40% of the snaps, bringing him back again. Played pretty well, and I feel like we're going to be able to work out a number. So other than tight end and safety, which we're going to attack heavy, I don't have a lot of plans. There's not a lot of turnover on this roster. And Green Bay is going to be heading into this draft with 8 draft picks as it stands now, if I'm not mistaken. So, and as we're going to try to get some more draft picks here and there. It's going to be really interesting. I'm going to go to chat real quick. Penguin Goats. I definitely think we should keep Mason Crosby. And he is a solid kicker. It's one of those ones I didn't say sign, walk, anything for Crosby because it's one of those ones he could easily come back. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't studied the kicking class yet, of any free agent or draft. As a Baltimore fan, we have a pretty good record of bringing on undrafted rookie free agents and getting a pretty good kicker out of it. And Penguin Goats agreeing we should definitely keep Christian Watson and Lazard together. I agree. And so we're going to follow, like I said, the blueprint I put together for the Bills a little bit in that regards yesterday. Because the Packers are going to be in a better cap situation than the Bills are, in my opinion. So we're going to be able to keep Lazard, keep Watson was a second-round pick, meaning he's on a 4-year deal. We're going to sign probably Lazard to a 3, somewhere between 3 and 5. Nothing, either 3 or 5, I should say, because we want that contract and Watson's contract to not overlap on the same year. So I think actually Lazard would love a 3-year contract. I think that's kind of what's predicted in free agency as well because, it's nicer to be able to hit the free agent market again. And Jerron Reed, of course, is going to be a big part of this. So moving on, I don't know why mine does that. We have we got to look at some cap numbers. So to start off, we're going to start on the right side here. Green Bay is $16.48 million over the cap, meaning we do have to find some room. But it's one of those ones where the Rodgers situation is going to be kind of tricky, honestly. Very tricky, but it could be very easy. And immediately clearing Rodgers off the cap basically clears the cap. And doing a little bit of the moves we're going to discuss here, I feel like as the GM of the Green Bay Packers, I'm going to be able to create enough cap space, of course, to sign a good draft class, as well as be pretty aggressive in free agency for 1 to 2 positions that I truly want. But real quick, just looking at all these numbers on the list, not as many as the Bills, because again, I said, this is a way better contractual situation than the Buffalo Bills were yesterday. So Rodgers off the top. David Bakhtiari, left tackle, of course, $28.85 million cap hit. Going to be a really huge cap hit. But anyone that would argue that he hasn't been at minimum a top 10 tackle in the past few years, it doesn't know football. So, and he's arguably usually a top 5 left tackle. He's pretty good. So with that being said, just keep an eye on his number. We're going to actually be working an extension, hopefully, with him. Kenny Clark, the defensive tackle, coming in at 23, almost 24 million. Again, huge number. Plays pretty well. I don't want him to go anywhere. Actually, I'm trying to lay out essentially I'm trying to as much as possible because we need to create extra cap to potentially deal. Because even if Aaron Rodgers is traded this year and we get like the 16 million whatever in cap savings, there's gonna be 3 years of like 30 something odd million dollars in other guarantees in the contract, which I believe is going to be a dead hit. So 2023, we're going to have a good window. But so I'm trying to figure out a way to take this from a team that's in a 1 to 2 year window like Rodgers to that 3 to 5 year window with arguably the best roster in the NFL, because next year free agency is not going to happen. So we need to address a lot of terms for the next 3 years to basically prepare for the Aaron Rodgers contract. Because again, if there's a post-June trade, and we're going to go over a little more of this later, we get immediate savings. If we have to cut Aaron Rodgers, God forbid, things get dark. That's the nuclear option. We're trying to avoid that. Real quick, going back to chat here, Penguin Goats. The $16 million situation, I think that we should land Rodgers or go keep Rodgers in for 1 more year. And that's exactly how the roster is kind of, in my opinion, set. You can do 1 year with Rodgers, or there's a lot of talk switching Derek Carr for Rodgers, which I even did a video on at one point. While that is an option, This is, and we're going to talk about this later. This is all going to come down to whether you trust Jordan Love or not. But the Packers are in it's a beautiful situation. When I started analyzing the roster and everything, so here's the thing. You also could just give the reins, one of the best rosters in the NFL, to Jordan Love. It's kind of what the Bears are about to do with Justin Fields. They're going to give, because the Bears have a stupid amount of cap space. And I might do a video on the Bears just for that reason. They have a stupid amount of cap space and really good draft capital. The Bears are going to be a completely different team from last year. Let me tell you that. But it's all going to also come down to basically Fields and Love. But they're both actually in really good situations. If Jordan Love doesn't play well next year, it would be nothing to let him go. No, and at that point, like I said, we're trying to get this team ready for a 3-year build. So either Jordan Love plays well, he gets probably a pretty decent contract. Maybe we got to do a little work to, do the team, but we're going to be in a good draft capital situation at that point, hopefully. We're going to address it here at one point. We joked last night because the Green Bay Packers could get blackballed, in the situation with Rodgers and maybe only get like a 3rd-round pick, which would, I literally joke on this slide, Grossi would probably cry. But in the situation that happens, we'll cover this a little later, but I'm going to say it now. God forbid you get a 3rd-round pick only for Rodgers. What I would do as the GM of the Packers is take that 3rd-round pick this year that I'm getting, flip it hopefully for a 2nd-round pick in the subsequent year. That 2nd-round pick becomes now ammo if Jordan Love doesn't work out, that I can use that 2nd-round pick to move up from almost any pick in the 1st round and go get your guy. And then again, we're already building this roster for 3 years with Jordan Love essentially. So it's basically Jordan Love gets a year, it doesn't work out. Oh, it's Andy. What's up, bro? Oh, you're fine, man. I thought I'd throw you an invitation. Andy's one of my other Packer fans that I know. But so it's really an ideal situation because, like I said, you could thanks for the scribe. But so basically, you could get 1 year with Jordan Love, with, again, one of the best rosters in the NFL at this point. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't cost you anything to move on from Jordan Love. You're going to have to deal with the Rodgers number, but again, we're loading up on some draft capital here. So going down the list, Aaron Jones is going to be another big one. He's due $20 million. Let me ask you, chat, how do you feel about that? Is Aaron Jones worth $20 million when you've got Dylan sitting on the bench? Plus, again, you might be able to get something out of it. Aaron Jones is not a free agent. So, again, if you could maybe find a team that just had the cap space to make it work with Aaron Jones, again, 3rd-round pick maybe for it. Like, you could he's worth more. He's, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to go over here shortly. He's approximately worth $10 million. Rashawn Gary's coming in at 10.8. I think Rashawn Gary's actually played pretty well. We're going to work on extending him to keep this window. I might get some controversy here on the Devondre Campbell pick, essentially. So cap hit coming in at $8.15 million. Pretty high. He played pretty well, though. Played like $5 million, so it's not bad. But I look at it as trade bait. We'll go into chat real quick. No, sir, love him, but can't hold him without a pay cut. And yep, so that's why these are all cap numbers to watch, because almost every name on this list we're about to work on. And so I'm going to slide out of here. So as it says on the right there, I see a lot of void years on these contracts for the Green Bay Packers, which basically is something teams do when they enter that, they're trying to almost like push over the cap to win a Super Bowl, just like the Buffalo Bills. It's not as bad as the Bills situation, but case in point, Adrian Amos is on this list on the bottom here. No matter what, even if Amos is not on the team next year, he is due $7.95 million on the cap. So basically, right there, what's happening this year with Adrian Amos on your cap is what's about to happen on your cap for the next 3 years, potentially, with Aaron Rodgers. So please bear that in mind, because that's why we're making a lot of these moves, because we need to make some cap space, and we need to start extending people that we think can be the guys for the next 3 to 5 years, on maybe adding even potentially 2 years onto a contract that aren't void years. There's a lot of times too, instead of extending, restructures can be done as well. But let's keep moving here. So we're going to move right into our tenders for the restricted free agents, as well as our re-signings for the team. So we're going to start on the left side here. Re-signing, we're only re-signing 4 unrestricted free agents. Like we said, Allen Lazard's going to possibly be one of the top 3 wide receivers on the market. OTC evaluated, which is over the cap, by the way, where we do a lot of our calculations. You're going to be he's cutting costs somewhere between 10.8 and higher for his thing. He played last year on a 3.9, so huge bargain. And like I said, we're trying to keep Lazard and Christian Watson together for at least 3 to 5 years. Because like I said, we're trying to off-layer their contract. So it's either a 3 or 5 year extension for Lazard. I think he goes for the 3. I'm comfortable, and the number we're going to take into these calculations, guys, is going to be $11 million. So that's going to be the average. And again, remember this. When we're talking about these numbers, we're talking about average per year, where, of course, most contracts are backloaded. So even though we're counting $11 million against the cap as the hit, it's not going to be that bad the first year. It's one of those ones like we talked about yesterday. Plan for the worst, hope for the best. And that's the situation. So even though I might paint a grimmer picture this year, you're going to have some extra money. So you're going to be able to make some moves. Jerron Reed, the inside defensive tackle, OTC evaluated his play at $7.28 million. You paid him only $1.78 legitimately. Steal. And that's why we're making sure to work some kind of re-signing with him. At that rate, I'm going to try to sign Jerron Reed at exactly $7.28 million. No, see, you could go Paris Campbell, but I'm telling you, 6'5" Lazard with basically 6'3" to 6'5" Watson, and Andy basically said he wants to go after Paris Campbell, which is not a bad move, actually. You could probably get Paris Campbell for a little cheaper. But our idea is that we're going to attack free agency really hard at tight end, because it's going to be a really heavy tight end free agency as well as safety. And just like we got Watson this past year, we're looking to get another guy in the draft. We're copying the kind of the mold I'm building for the Buffalo Bills. We want 2 really big, kind of more established wide receivers, a really good tight end, and then find one guy in this draft, because between 1 and 40, there's going to be some really good wide receivers in this draft. And in some of these scenarios that I've worked, we could trade down. I'm sorry I don't have it right here on me. What are we picking? 15, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Picking 15, that we could trade down, still get ahead of the Vikings, get a really good tight end or wide receiver. At that point, on some draft boards, the wide receiver run hasn't even started yet. It's just about to. So, of course, you don't want to get behind Minnesota in that essence, and I think we're going to get a tight end in the draft. But like you said, Paris Campbell for 3 to 5 might be a good move. You're not wrong there, Andy. Justin Hollins played 1.77 valuation according to OTC. Not a great player. He played on a $375,000 contract. So that's one of those ones. Again, I'm comfortable paying him at least $1 million based upon his snap and grade play as like a backup, developmental kind of player. That, again, just to also kind of keep the roster stable. That's fine. And is it Kashawn Nixon? OTC evaluated his play at $22.68 million, played on basically less than $1 million contract. That's one of those ones. Again, I'm comfortable even paying him like I think I evaluated 2.5 in our resources. And again, if he doesn't sign for 2.5, just like in any of these situations, we can go get someone for the same or less. So there's always going to be a little bit of flexibility here. But I'm always trying to paint this picture with a number that I worked out in mind to start with, essentially. I basically work through the cap and figure out how much money do I need to make to get us out of the red, sign our draft class, which can be somewhere between 2 to 9 million, but more realistically 2 to 7. Um, as well as allow us to fill the holes and keep the team mostly together because we have a pretty good team. And that's why I say we could potentially give Jordan Love or another quarterback one of the best rosters in the NFL and definitely the NFC. Andy, I don't know if you were here when I spoke about it. I'm calling, if Green Bay kind of follows the mold here a little bit, there's tons of different ways we can go. But I call Green Bay upsetting the Vikings, winning the NFC North, and actually the Bears as well beating the Vikings. I think the Vikings are going to fall off next year. Ravens Gunny ask in chat, can you package Aaron Jones draft capital for a possible Higgins draft capital trade while also letting Lazard go? That's another really interesting option. So here's one of the ones though. If Higgins hits actual free agency, Higgins is, I think, the clear number one wide receiver on the free agent market, ahead of Jacoby Myers and, of course, Lazard. With that, that would be beneficial to us as a Packers fan because it's going to helpfully lower Lazard's price just a little. It's one of those ones. If Lazard wants more than $11 million, I am more than comfortable letting him go. I will never sign a player over a price. 10 million sounds about right for like a 3-year, like $35 million deal, basically $10 million cap hit every year, something like that. I'm fine with keeping Lazard for that price. If the market goes crazy, which it might, because we saw that with Jacksonville last year, Christian, whatever his name is, got way too much money. Kirk Christian, whatever. So of course, if like Lazard's like, I want 15 million a year. All right, man, go find it. We'll take that compensatory pick. That's fine. And then of course you can bring in Campbell, and you can probably bring in someone else in free agency, and then still go attack wide receiver in the draft. Because then you have at that point, if Lazard wants 15 million, I'm not willing to give it. That's $11 million on top of the numbers we're going to go over later that we have to spend, which now makes the Packers really dangerous, actually ending possibly that top 5% of draft or cap room going into next year, which is nuts, going from negative like 16 million cap to one of the highest cap teams for at least 1 year. I think, Andy with a hot take, think the Lions will actually take the division. Wow. I love the elimination of bias of your own team. I love it. But it is going to be this could go from a division that was like, meh, it's the Bears, it's the Lions, to like, oh, this is what the AFC West was supposed to be. I think it's going to be a way more competitive division than people think. Just like Baltimore with Tyler Huntley. If you have a really good roster around that player, other than wide receiver, of course, which y'all actually might have, then you can kind of win. I'm going to slide out a little bit. So, of course, real quick, just RFA tenders. Of course, we're going to give Nijman, the tackle, a first or second round tender. He's not going anywhere. OTC evaluated his play at 6.3 million, so he played really well with I think 60% of the snaps. For this sake, we're going with a second round tender, so we're getting Nijman back for less than $4 million. That's beautiful. Barnes, we're gonna basically let him walk. Not great play. If he wants to re-sign for the right price, that's fine, but he's not a priority. Tyler Davis, the tight end, we're going to use what's called the ROFR, right of first refusal. That's basically a $2.43 million tender. And if someone wants to sign him to more, you get the chance to match it. Again, he's kind of going to be my pick as a mid-developmental guy. Basically, the plan is to have Tyler Davis there, bring in a young guy through the draft, in the later rounds, as well as sign potentially a bigger name free agent. Is kind of my game plan right now. So not a lot of money there for the restricted free agents. But now we got to talk about where we're finding money. So this is where we get to. So David Bakhtiari, OTC evaluated his play at $8.25 million. And like we talked about, he's going to be hitting cap at $28 million. I still think though, no matter what, he's a top 10 minimum, more than likely top 5 tackle in the league. Penguin, I'm working on it, man. I got so much going on right now. Like not only between this, but like professionally in life and personally. I'm negotiating potentially like a $10,000 to $20,000 work contract right now, like for me to make money. But so the plan for me is actually to extend Bakhtiari. I don't think he has void years on his contract, so it doesn't make a lot of problems. And so again, we're trying to set another 3 to 5 year window for the Packers to deal with the cap hit that's coming from Aaron Rodgers. And so as you can see right there, the savings from extending Bakhtiari could potentially make $12.58 million, which is the number we're going to roll with for these calculations. Even if we restructure the deal, we can make $7.86 million. But again, in my plan for Green Bay, he's in the plan, basically. Oh, no, you're fine, Penguin. Kenny Clark, we're kind of going the same way. Kenny Clark played OTC $9.08 million. Cap hit $23 million. So he's still playing a very high level of football, but man, $23 million's kind of hard to swallow. I don't really want to cut him. He's one of the players that has void years current on the end of his contract, which basically means dead cap years no matter what on, even if he's not with the team. The void years might make this a little harder to deal with, but if we can work out an extension with Kenny Clark and maybe lower that cap number a little bit, we can again save $11.62 million. And again, right there, even if we didn't trade Aaron Rodgers, we're out of the cap heck. We can clear enough right there, $23 million to get out of the negative cap. We talked about shortly earlier, Rashad Gary and Darnell Savage Jr. Both played pretty well. OTC $4.3 million for Gary, basically $2 million for Savage. Pretty good. And we think that they still have room to grow, in my opinion. With that being said, signing them both to extensions, I'm doing nothing else. No restructures. I'm only looking to extend those two to pretty good deals. Baltimore has a philosophy. Every player has their price. Like case in point, we wanted to bring back C.J. Mosley, but the Jets just offered him insane money because he was the number one linebacker on the free agency that year. So if we can extend Gary and Savage Jr. and really lean into, hey guys, we're going to make a Super Bowl roster around Love, and if Love doesn't work out, we'll go find that guy, is basically the message to all our guys. There's another set. I'm going to lean out. The Gary move makes $7.8 million, and the Darnell Savage Jr. move could free up basically $5.5 million. So again, we just made a lot of money in only 4 extensions, essentially. That again secure 3 defensive players and our franchise left tackle, basically, for the next 3 years. Again, holy crap. I've got Lazard and this core put together with Christian Watson for the next 3 years. Okay, that's kind of attractive, maybe actually the 5. So again, though, we're not done making money because I want to be prepared. I want to have money to deal with the dead cap hits, potentially maybe to roll, because you can roll over money from one season to the other. So we could put together one heck of a team, still not go heavy on the cap, and be able to roll a good chunk next year to help us with that dead cap from Rodgers. So with that being said, we're heading to trades and cuts, essentially. And this, like I said, I might get some controversy. And this is where if Andy, if you're still there, and Penguin, I definitely want your take on this. Devondre Campbell. So OTC evaluated his play $5.6 million. Really good. His cap hits 8.1. Okay, not the best, but it's not terribly overpriced in my opinion. But again, I'm trying to secure some draft capital and find money. Devondre Campbell could be a very attractive trade to make money. If we trade him, we can free $5.1 million also. Of course, we can do some restructure work to maybe work that number a little better, which he might be open to, which, I mean, that's, in my opinion, the more ideal situation. But it really depends on what kind of draft pick I could get for him. You're guaranteed at least like a second, basically, kind of like what Roquan got, so minimum a third. And it's one of those ones we're gonna look at the inside. A lot of what's gonna happen, guys, and we're gonna cover it when it gets closer, is that the franchise tag window, which is at the end of this month and beginning of March, is gonna really determine a lot of things because this could be a really, really nice free agent market. Aaron Jones, this is one of those ones I'd love to trade Aaron. Like we talked about earlier, his cap hit is $20 million. He's got void years on this contract. So again, that 2-year window we talked about, the years that are going to hurt are coming up. So we got to make some cap money for it. OTC evaluated his play like $10.8 million. So again, he didn't play bad. But this is the question of we have Dillon and what's available in the draft and potential free agency. Because again, franchise tags is going to play a huge potential in the running back market. This could be a pretty heavy running back market, and we might be able to find a good depth guy, kind of give Dillon the lead role with a good free agent signing for decent money, and then again, possibly spend like a 3rd round pick on a running back potentially, or just find a guy that we think we could really develop. Because the next 3 years, when that cap money starts hitting from Rodgers' deal, we're going to have to rely on developing guys. But Green Bay has shown really good results in doing that, essentially. Going to chat real quick. I have high hopes for the Packers defense and hopefully be elite defense. And see, barring injuries, Penguin, I think we can make the Packers defense elite. And I'm so excited. Please stick around while we're gonna go over a little bit what we're looking for in free agency, the little bit of the preview of things. Because all right, Penguin, I'm gonna pose it to you right now. What if I have the cap money to go steal Tremaine Edmonds from the Bills because they can't afford him? And we went over that yesterday. Even our resident Bills fan, Chimera, agreed. They don't have the money to keep him, and it's just sad. It's going to be sad. But he's projected to get a $15 million deal. I can work a $15 million average deal. So basically, there's a chance we could be trading Devondre Campbell for Tremaine Edmonds. And that's kind of my game plan here. And, I mean, as Packer fans, what do you think about that right there? You know what I'm saying? And before we get the answer, I'm going to keep going back to chat. This is definitely good in bed. I hope that it turns out well for this. Definitely good. I hope it's bad. I'm going to say just please don't be. And barring injuries, we could be good. Andy says, as a Packers fan, shoot all 3rd-round picks to the moon. Possibly. And like I said, Andy, so let's say, case in point, we do the Aaron Jones because someone's willing to take, or Devondre Campbell. We get a 3rd-round pick. What I want to do is take that 3rd-round pick in the 2023 draft and trade it hopefully for a 2nd-round pick in the 2024 draft. So just in case Love doesn't work out, that 2nd-round pick is now an extra free ammo pick for trading. And at that point with a 2nd-round pick, you can take whatever 1st-round pick you have and move up to anywhere in the draft to go get who you think might be the next franchise quarterback. Because there's some guys coming out in the 2024 draft quarterback-wise that, so Aaron Jones is one of those ones. If you trade him or cut him, there's $16 million in cap saving. And that's why I'm like, I think I'm going to hand the reins to Dillon. You know what I'm saying? Like, for $16 million, that's what I'm saying. That move alone basically secures you being able to go get Tremaine Edmonds if you want to. And again, we're averaging that number on the average year contract. So the first year hit's going to be lower. So you're going to have even more room to work with on that deal. Where things can get really sticky, though. And so for Aaron Jones, again, we would love to get a draft pick for him, but it's one of those ones we might end up cutting him. Because teams know if we have to cut him, he doesn't count towards the compensatory pick formula, essentially. So they can sign him to a pretty good deal probably, he's probably going to get an inflated deal because I see Saquon Barkley not. More than likely, Aaron Jones is going to be the number one running back and potentially a top 5 free agent on the market if he gets cut. It's just one of those ones. It's unfortunate. But like we talked about a little bit last night in the stream, I have the philosophy personally: pay the guys who block for the halfback. You can find good free agent pickups and really good running backs in the draft. And we're going to talk about here later. I think we might be able to find a guy in this draft. But yeah, don't worry, Andrea. Like I said, we're going to package some of those third-round picks for future because with the Packers already having 8 picks, the Packers do not need any picks for this year, really, to be honest with you. 8 to 10 is the max amount of picks you want to go into a draft because, of course, the more you have, not only the larger you're signing for the draft class, but so, again, all those contracts come up in 1 year. It's why there's a golden rule, and Philadelphia is following this. You never have more than 2 first-round picks because if you have 3 first-round picks all come up on their 5th-year options and you all have to extend 3 star players in 1 year, it doesn't work. So that's why, like, Philly had 3 first-round picks. They made sure to trade that 3rd one, and they're just keeping the model of having at least 2 first-round picks a year. It's genius. I'd love to copy it. But, so we're not looking to add too much in 2018. So maybe, like I said, that 3rd round pick we get this year, we instantly flip for a 2nd next year. And then say we get 2 3rd round picks, 1 for Aaron Jones. Let's get a worst case scenario. We have literally Andy's worst nightmare because of the 3rd round picks from this year. We get a 3rd for Campbell, a 3rd for Jones, and a 3rd for Rodgers. 3 3rd round picks this year, essentially. You flip 1 3rd round pick for a 2nd round in 2024. You flip 1 3rd round pick for like 4th and 5th, 4th, 6th, 7th maybe, but later round picks. So when you go into 2024, you potentially have a 1st round pick, 2 2nd rounds, 2 3rds, 2 4ths, a 5th, 6th, and 2 7ths, which again, because you're going to have to build through the draft with the dead cap coming from Aaron Rodgers in the next 3 years after 2023 season. But like I said, we're about to cover here, the Aaron Rodgers situation could get really trippy because you might get blackballed by other teams. I'm going to real quick over it. So basically, you have to trade him post-June. That's the only thing you can do. And no matter what, he's due over $30+ million in other bonuses from 2024 through 2026. So after this year, we're going to have to start taking care of that. But with that being said, if you made every move I made here on the slideshow and we talked about for those numbers, we're going to go back to the cap. Starting cap number was negative $16.84 million. If we make all the trades, extensions, and cuts, all that we predicted, we're freeing up a total of $74.48 million. To put that into perspective, that's almost... It's crazy. The Bears are going to have more than that in free agency this year. They are going to blow the market out for any guy they will get in free agency, basically, unless it comes down to they just don't want to go to Chicago. On top of that, though, we have the cost of our 4 re-signs as well as our restricted free agency tenders. That's going to cost us $33.132 million. Add those numbers up, which again, I'm like, I swear that doesn't add up. Let's do these numbers again. Hold on. I feel like oh yeah, because the negative 16, duh. I'm like, those numbers don't add up. Oh yeah, I'm negative 16 to start with. So negative 16 plus 33 million, and then minus the 74. So we are positive $24.54 million with these moves. Expected draft class could be 2 to 7 million. Basically meaning with these moves and bringing Lazard and Reed back, we're going to have about 22 to 17 million dollars in free agency this year to play with, which again, like I said, is going to allow us as the GM of the Packers to be pretty competitive in free agency and possibly get two bigger free agents while filling the roster and then going into the draft with 8+ draft picks, which again is where I want Baltimore to be. So again, I think that's a pretty good situation to be going into free agency with, to be honest with you. Exactly. 24 million to go in free agency. And that's again, pre-draft class. So I like to allocate with draft class. So 22 to 17. And like I said, a lot of this, you might have more money. So, but I want to talk real quick the Aaron Rodgers situation. So, like we talked about, anything other than a post June 1st trade results in a loss in cap space in 2023. If you have to do anything pre-June, it costs you $68 million this year, which again, at that point, you've got to destroy your roster. If it's post-June cut because you can't trade him, if Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if he has a trade clause, but if Aaron Rodgers, and you can't work out, because again, this is going to be a really crazy free agency market for quarterbacks and trades because we have, Derek Carr on the move. There, Lance might be on the move. Garoppolo's going to be on the move. There's going to be a lot of movement in quarterbacks. And we talked about even Chancellor Lamar being on the move. So Rodgers kind of has the Packers by the because if it's anything other than a post-June trade, the Packers have to destroy the roster. So it's why we joked the other GMs know this, and they could blackball the Green Bay Packers and be like, I'm only going to give you a 3rd-round pick for Aaron Rodgers. That could realistically happen, which I think Grossi would literally cry. We have it right there. Only a 3rd for Rodgers? How you feel, Grossi? It's okay. We can cry together. It would be so sad. But it's a situation because you got these questions. How many years are you getting Rodgers for realistically if you trade for him? He's debated retirement here and there. So it's like, hey, I'm only getting a player possibly for like 2 years. You know what I'm saying? And as a GM that's trying to build a team, you can't really sacrifice too much for it. So don't expect, sadly, Russell, because again, I think the Russell Wilson trade was horrible, but don't expect that level of compensation, and it's going to be a little sad. A popular thing I've seen floated around, so of course we talked about the Derek Carr Rodgers swap, which I think is a high potential. Yeah, no, so good. No trade clause. That's awesome to hear. But I've seen a lot of cases where if it's not a quarterback, a tight end or a corner, basically these guys that are on like a contract year or coming up that their teams know they can't afford, where they do this all the time. They're like, hey, I'll trade you this guy for a low round pick because like the Bears did for Robert Quinn. We know we can't afford him. We got to get rid of him, yada, yada, yada. So I've seen quite a few popular trade opinions where Rodgers gets traded for actually a very good safety or tight end that's coming up contractually wise. And again, that kind of fits into our situation. If Rodgers, instead of a 3rd-round pick, we get a tight end that's playing like 1st-round talent level, cool, that's great. Now I've got more money in free agency and it frees up my draft plans, or I can extend the guy and he was just basically the free agency money I was going to spend anyway. And safety, again, with the Amos thing, kind of makes a lot of sense. So keep an eye on that as well. Even if it's not Carr, a player swap potentially for Rodgers instead of a 3rd, like a low round pick. I think it's one of those ones. Rodgers is not, because he does have a no trade clause. He's going to look at them and say, here's the deal. Trade me where I want to go to, or I retire as soon as they trade me. And I'm going to tell the team, hey, Raiders, as soon as you trade for me, I'm going to retire. So please don't give any picks because I don't know. I mean, it also depends. I don't know if he's allowed to talk to agents like that or his agent is. I'm sure he can basically tell his agent and his agent can tell anyone for the Raiders organization that. So it's going to be, it's going to be an interesting one. And like we said, this is going to be a pretty crazy free agent market for quarterbacks as well as trade market. We talked a little bit about it yesterday too. Where could Aaron Rodgers land? More than likely, they want to trade him out of the NFC to the AFC. We talked a little bit about the AFC yesterday. The AFC has too many good quarterbacks. And there's the potential Lamar is traded from the AFC to the NFC. So that would be a whole interesting situation. Yeah, I actually messaged Grossi earlier today, seeing if he wanted to drop in just to watch the coverage. I would, of course, love his opinion on some of the moves we made. Of course, whoever my fourth viewer is, we're coming in a little later here on the coverage. But of course, where could Aaron Rodgers land? The Jets is a really hot spot for him. The Jets want him. I think they joked about changing their name on Twitter, whatever, to Green Bay Packers quarterback retirement home. I think Seattle is going to stick with Geno Stone. That's why. I think Geno Stone is going to be their guy, and then they're going to go get a young quarterback in the draft. That's the only reason Seattle is not on my list. However, though, Andy, it does make sense in the regard he loves the West Coast. If you notice, most of these are West Coast, like the Raiders, Niners, Rams. But so Jets is on the list. The Niners would be hilarious. Basically, Rodgers could come, take over as the starter while Purdy gets a long recovery from the UCL injury, essentially. Of course, that's a roster. Again, you're a quarterback away from the Super Bowl. And what quarterback would you love more? And of course, he would love to go to the 49ers because, again, he's a Cali kid. He was talked about, I think, last year, how he kind of wanted to go back to the West Coast. I've been rated a few times by Tom, but to be honest with you, the Raiders are another one we talked about where it could be like a Derek Carr Rodgers swap. There's been a lot of hype about Derek Carr going to New Orleans, though. And in that sense, you're going to have to deal with the cap implications of a Carr contract, which is not as bad as Rodgers, but the Titans is another very popular pick for Rodgers right now. Basically, I mean, who doesn't want to see Aaron Rodgers with Derrick Henry? You know what I'm saying? That's terrifying. I would love to delve a little deeper into the Titans roster for that aspect. But I think if I'm going to do a video, my next one might actually be the Chicago Bears. Got to hit up my boy Mike, who's a subscriber to the channel. And that's what I'm saying, Penguin. The Niners make a lot of sense. A lot of sense. And the Niners have such a deep team that's one of those ones, again, if it's not draft capital, they probably have a player they're willing to get rid of to trade for Aaron Rodgers. It makes a lot of sense on both sides, in my opinion. There's a small chance that Trey Lance could come over, but I'd rather just go Jordan Love for a year. We're gonna bring in a pretty good free agent quarterback as well, because the quarterback market's gonna be a little crazy. I feel like we're gonna be able to find a pretty solid guy to back up Love that, again, can game manage and kind of get us to the playoffs and maybe make a Super Bowl run with that top 5 defense, essentially. You're not wrong. Andy says he still won't hand off the ball. I think the Titans are out. You're not wrong, and they kind of bungled their wide receiver situation, letting Brown walk or go to the Eagles, basically. Penguin Go says, is it okay if I don't to the Chicago Bears? I totally get it, man. It's one of those ones, though, like I said, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head, Chicago's coming into free agency with approximately $90 million in cap space. I think the next highest team's going to be 50. So it's one of those ones. Chicago's going to be able to buy whatever free agent they want. And this is going to be a deep free agent market. It's going to be a deep safety market. There's going to be a lot of defensive depth on the free agent market. While in the draft, there's going to be some really good wide receivers, really good tight ends, and really good running backs, honestly. O-line's pretty heavily mock draft right now in the first round from what I've seen. And we're actually going to go over that a little bit in one of the mock drafts that I like to follow. Tackle is taken first round. So they have Packers going O-line first round, which I can't really ever argue with because, like I said, pay the guys who block for the running back, who block for the quarterback. Because we've seen with Mahomes, Brady, if you can't protect your quarterback, if he's running for his life, you're going to have issues. And Josh Allen dealt with that a little bit this year as well, which we covered yesterday. And like I said, yeah, Penguin, it's kind of like it's one of those ones I want to do the video because, man, with that free agent, and again, they got a decent amount of draft capital, not what they should have got from all the trades this year, but they have a decent amount of draft capital. They have Justin Fields, who showed some promise growth, paired up with Chase Claypool, one of those 6'5" guys who can really, again, if you can get in the red zone with a 6'5" guy, I'm telling you, like, you can make some stuff happen. But real quick, so we can move on from this one, the dark horses here, Colts. Eric Bieniemy has been on record saying, I have not interviewed for any offensive coordinator position so far. The only position I have interviewed for is the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, which we talked about in our hiring video for the Ravens, that even though we had Bieniemy the number one choice in opinion of scheme and everything else, despite all the baggage, I said it on that video. Bieniemy is not leaving Kansas City unless he's going to become a head coach. There's no point, there's no value in it, and why would you do it? You know what I'm saying? Of course, they want him there. So dark horse, Bieniemy takes over the head coach of the Colts. They completely flip that roster and bring in Aaron Rodgers because Jim Irsay has absolutely shown that he will pressure the owner of the Colts, that he will pressure his GM to get a veteran quarterback that he thinks can make a Super Bowl run. So, and of course, Bieniemy, I think, would appeal a little bit to even Aaron in that sense. Like, okay, let's go run a KC offense over there with Campbell. Maybe he re-signs with the Colts. Another dark horse there is the Dolphins. There's been a little talk, Tua's concussions. What if you trade Tua, get some decent draft capital, and bring in Aaron Rodgers essentially instead of extending Tua Tagovailoa? Okay, Aaron Rodgers and Tyreek, and again, just how they talked about yesterday, they don't want him in our Chimera, our Bills fan doesn't want him in the AFC East. It could happen. Rams are another dark horse because, again, they're one of those teams that's trying to enter these short windows. And, of course, again, Aaron loves the West Coast. Andrew says in chat, Bieniemy won't leave KC unless he finds a good situation as head coach. I still think Jeff Saturday will remain. Wow. I don't think Jeff can stay head coach of the Colts after everything that happened. But I definitely agree with your take. Like I said, Bieniemy's not leaving unless it's a head coach job. It's one of those ones. Bieniemy's not taking the head coach job unless he's got full permission to go get whatever quarterback he wants. Which, knowing Irsay as the owner of the Colts, he will absolutely give Bieniemy full, go get whoever you want, basically. Exactly. Even though Justin Jefferson's a beast, Saturday started hot and then flopped. And I think there's going to be some good head coaching candidates out there. I think Dave Canales could end up as the head coach over there, the offensive coordinator of the Seattle Seahawks, to be honest with you, who's really high on my list for Baltimore, but I also think he would come to Baltimore and then become a head coach next year. So with that being said, we got to look at areas, I just realized the typo, to address in free agency, trade, and draft. So right off the top of the list, we got to talk about kicker if we don't re-sign Crosby. We talked a lot about it earlier, guys, how I want to attack tight end really aggressively in free agency. Inside linebacker, especially if we make the move from Campbell, there's going to be a pretty good potential inside linebacker class. And we talked about earlier, can you imagine snagging Tremaine Edmonds from the Bills to replace Campbell, basically, in the center of the Packers defense? Again, the Packers take that step from a really, really good defense to absolutely probably an elite defense. right there. And again, we talked about with 24 million maybe in cap, we got room to do it easy. And right here where I'm talking about the possible linebackers in free agency, Tremaine Edmonds, Deion Jones, Levante David, Devin Bush, Denzel Perryman. And so, like, cap wise, really what we could do is go sign Tremaine Edmonds to take over linebacker, sign someone like Hayden Hurst from the Bengals, who's a former first round pick from the Ravens, and I'll attest to his play, as well as I'm telling you, he's not on the list, but Oliver is going to hit free agency. Oliver plays at about a $5 million level OTC when we covered it for the Ravens. He's a really good pass catching tight end and improved his run blocking over the past year. So the dream signing is Hurst or Oliver for not big money, but right price, right player kind of deal, as well as maybe replacing someone like Amos with Von Bell from the Bengals, or, again, this is going to be a really deep safety class as well. So in that opinion, signing like Edmonds and Von Bell to secure up that defense and then attacking it pretty decently in the draft as well, I think we could take the Packers defense to a whole nother level. And then again, we're pairing Christian Watson with Alan Lazard, basically 6'5" guys, with maybe someone like Hayden Hurst, who's again like a 6'5", 6'6", like Hayden Hurst is like a 6'5", 250 tight end that ran like 4.5, who, oh my God, his blocking this year was lethal. Lethal, bro. In some of the games we cover for the Bengals, the pop when he hit people. Absolutely would love to bring him in. And Oliver has shown like Andrews-esque catches in the Raven games. I definitely would put Hurst as a better blocker, so I would kind of prefer Hurst in this situation over Oliver. And then again, I think in this situation, I think we can shed a little money by getting rid of Amos while also getting a equal or better player at about the same money at safety. And at that point, like I said, I think we could take a huge step. In our cap money, we actually even have the potential, because I think the Amos thing was only like $6 million. We're 24 over. And again, these are our worst cap hits, basically. You doing the average of the contract on the first year. You could keep Amos and bring Von Bell in. Can you imagine that? Again, the Green Bay Packers defense takes an elite step at that point and could even carry, even if Love played mediocre, I feel like they could carry Green Bay potentially to 10 wins and a playoff appearance. That when we examine this, there's not a lot of holes in this roster to fill. And that's why I want to be aggressive in those two, especially tight end and linebacker, which again, we talked about. Again, there's so many scenarios we could go with this. If Aaron Rodgers, instead of like a third round pick, we get a really good tight end, well, there's like probably $8 million in cap that I can allocate towards Amos. I can dedicate towards maybe an edge rusher, which I'm going to slide to the other side so you can see the other side draft text a little better. But I think we're going to be able to put a really good roster together. Try to slide here to the other side. I can't because of my chair. Let me hide also the event list so we can get a good look here. So it's slightly out of frame. We have 8 picks going into the draft without any of those trades. So again, we don't really need any extra draft pick this year. And as I said a few times, we're going to try to flip hopefully 1 third-round pick, if we get it, into a second-round pick in 2024. Going into the draft, case in point, we made our dream signings. We got Edmonds, Hurst, and Von Bell, and we did everything else we talked about in this video. I feel like my number one priorities going into the draft are going to be, as they say there, wide receiver, offensive line, corner, safety, tight end, and edge. And actually, I'm sorry, edge is going to be a little bit higher as I slide out here. So as we talked about, we want Watson, Lazard, and a high pick wide receiver, possibly first round, worst case a second round pick, with whoever, like Hayden Hurst, for example, our free agency tight end, to be basically a big 4 for Love. With that being said, our first 2 prios in this draft are going to be the wide receiver position and a good edge rusher. You can never have too much pass rush, in my opinion. And with addressing the safety in free agency and maybe the Amos keep,
bringing in another edge rusher because our secondaries played. We have, Alexander's played well. Um, and I'm sorry I forgot the other corners' names, but the corners from my examination have played pretty well. They're on good contracts. We're not going to have turnover there. And like we say it up here on the late rounds, we're just going to take shots at corner with some of these later round picks. Um, so priority on wide receiver and edge rushers. Immediately though, we're going after offensive line because again, you can never have enough blockers, Linebacker, depending on again, if we don't get Tremaine Edmonds, we might want to attack linebacker a little more aggressively in free agency. And again, if we keep Campbell and don't have much cap space, again, we need to attack that linebacker a little more. And this is where, again, we could draft. There's going to be a good amount of tight ends. I've seen the Notre Dame tight end and the Kansas State tight end both mocked to Green Bay in that essence. So it's one of those ones you could also copy the trend that Philly, Baltimore, and a lot of other teams did with having one really good established tight end and then finding a really good other tight end. So in the red zone, you can pop in 2.65 to 6.6 safeties. Yes, Eric Stokes, Russell Douglas was one of the ones. He played really well contract wise, actually, like really well to his contract. Eric was, meh, but his cap number was not enough to warrant anything to look at, in my opinion. So the secondary stays the same. We upgrade the safety position a little bit in free agency. And again, potentially keep Amos and bring in someone like maybe not Devin Bush, but there's going to be some other really good safeties out there that are a little bit lower caliber. So again, though, you could pair like Hayden Hurst with maybe the 6'6" guy from Notre Dame or the really good pass catcher from Kansas State. And now you have Lazard, Watson. And one of the scenarios, guys, you could walk away with oh my God, what's the TCU kid's name? He's like 6'5" and he's known for taking the top off defenses. Some consider him the number one wide receiver. It all depends on when the wide receiver run starts. But in some situations, Quentin Johnson, I believe, yeah, that's his name. So can you imagine Alan Lazard, Watson, Quentin Johnson, yeah, I'm pretty sure is his name. But instead of that, maybe go with the UNC kid we talked about yesterday. Top wide receivers draft. Quentin Johnson. Thank you. So in one of the mocks, Quentin Johnson was able to get picked up by y'all. Now that's like 3.65 wide receivers. That's too many. If in that case, I'm going with one of these more smaller slot guys that I know is going to be like a next Brandon Cooks in a sense, which at that point, again, we could trade down at that point because we're still kind of waiting to see a little bit of the wide receiver run. And at that point, again, like Baltimore might be calling Green Bay and saying, "Hey, we kind of want Quentin Johnson. What do we need to come?" Because at that point, Baltimore is actually in our draft range that we're going to talk about here. So Bijan Robinson was another one that I've seen mocked to the Green Bay Packers. So that's another one. Again, you could possibly get Bijan in the second round, like early second, late first. I've seen one though where he's like mocked fourth overall, and I was like, yeah, that's bull. But can you imagine Dylan backed up by Bijan Robinson with again, Lazard, your Hayden Hurst and Christian Watson, and then maybe another wide receiver potentially as well. Walter Football has y'all taking Tyler Steen, the offensive tackle out of Alabama, followed by the edge rusher. I forgot his name. It was too long to put in there from Kansas State. So Walter Football has y'all going tackle followed by edge rusher, which is kind of similar to what we're going for, guys. But I'd rather go with the offensive tackle and maybe go, in the second round, possibly an offensive lineman. It kind of all really depends a little bit. It also depends a lot on what kind of draft packages we're going to get for some of those guys if we can get them. Thanks, Penguin. I really appreciate I'm glad you're able to enjoy it. So let me run through some trade scenarios that I worked out here. And because you can look at Draft Tech has a trade value chart that I like to use that can tell you basically a point value for a draft pick. So in this scenario, of course, Green Bay has pick number 15, which I believe on Draft Tech is worth 1,050 points. I don't have it here, but I'm pretty sure I'm accurate on that. So we could trade, say we don't want Quentin Johnson, for example, but we were comfortable moving back just a little bit in the first round from 15 to, like, as you can maybe see right there, that 19 to 22 range. This still puts you ahead of Baltimore and ahead of Minnesota in that essence, with a few teams that might be willing to move up to go get somebody. So again, you always want to get in front of your division rival, but Baltimore, is probably looking for a wide receiver, which of course we're going to be looking for. So you don't want to go too far because Baltimore doesn't have draft capital to really trade up right now. So it's unlikely Baltimore trades up in the first round. So again, 19 to 22 range, dropping back from 15 on the draft value board should net us, Andy's going to cry a little bit here, a third round value. So it's one of those ones we could go from like maybe 15 to 19 and pick up another third round pick. So again, at that point, I don't really need more than 8 picks this year. Maybe I go with 9, but again, we're going to start flipping some of these picks to 2024 picks because we're going to have good draft classes kind of for the next 3 years due to the Aaron Rodgers contracts. If you were willing to go a little further in the first round, it gets interesting. The trade value package going from 15 to the 24-26 range, which there's still going to be really good players on the board, you can gain a second round pick. So let's say in that scenario, we do that. We trade from 15 to 24 and we pick up an additional second round pick this year. That one I'm going to hold on to. With the first pick, I'm still able to get one of the smaller slot wide receivers that I think is going to be the next star in the NFL. With that second round pick, I might be able to go get Bijan Robinson, the running back, basically. So again, I might be able to get Bijan and Dylan together while getting, like, let me see here. So let me see. Jordan Addison's going to be gone. So if we went that route, I expect Johnson to be off the board. I expect Zay Flowers to be off the board. I expect Addison to be off the board. But after that, we might have a shot. So Josh Downs, the wide receiver from UNC, 5'10", 175. Borderline first to second round pick approximately. Jackson Smith from Ohio State might be gone as well, which again helps our case possibly with the UNC kid. You could take the kid out of Washington. He's a little bigger at 6'3". Nathaniel Dell from Houston. A lot of these draft picks too, and we're going to be doing coverage when the combine happens because the combine is really going to let us know. Like, I'm looking for a slot guy that shows me game-breaking acceleration and yards after catch is what I'm looking for, essentially, especially if we keep Lazard and Christian Watson, of course, is coming back. So if we pair Lazard and Watson, I'm looking for a guy that one-on-one in the slot can break away from a man and get me some yards after the catch, while Lazard and Watson run their men 5 to 10 yards downfield before starting to block the living heck out of them. And that's the thing, as Andy says, bro, trade every third rounder for seconds and fourths. That's the plan, Andy. We don't want any more than 2 third-round picks. God forbid, like I said, we ended up with all those third-round picks. I think Baltimore had like 5 fourth-round picks a year ago. So that kind of stuff can happen. But yeah, we don't want any more than 2 third-round picks, and a lot of draft picks we're willing to take 2024 picks, future draft picks, which again only increases our value of rounds we can get. So we could really be setting up 2024 draft class to be huge. You know what I'm saying? Like, huge. It could be, like I said, yeah, the 10-yard split and 3 cone drills from what Andy said are going to be key Again, if I keep Lazard, that's what I'm looking for, which again works in my favor if I want to trade from 15 back to that 24 range. That is perfect in my, and maybe I'm biased because Baltimore has a long history of trading back, but at that point again, I'm able to flip a lot of picks to 2024. And again, Dylan, I think, might be a 2025 free agent. So again, even if Dylan the next year walks into big money and we have to let him walk, we have Bijan Robinson, and we're just going to keep this running back train going. And at that point, again, it works to our favor because Bijan's not going to cost a lot for 5 years. So basically, you could pair Bijan, and all these wide receivers with Jordan Love, and again, you could have a potentially explosive offense while having potentially a top 3 defense in the league, which is the goal. But the best part about this whole scenario is what we talked about. So as long as we're going to go to the outlook here, as long as Aaron Rodgers doesn't go nuclear option on us, we're going to be in a pretty good situation. And it's one of those questions, would you rather be in a 1 to 3 year window with a Super Bowl caliber quarterback, but you can't put the roster around them because, cap? Or would you rather have a 4 to 5 year window with a young quarterback and maybe the best roster in the conference? Kind of similar to what I talked about in Baltimore. I see the Packers, no matter what, winning 10 games, making the playoffs, and as we talked about, upsetting the Vikings. But it's all going to be dependent on Jordan Love's play. But we talked about earlier, in my opinion, the Packers are in an ideal situation. They're going to be able, if we follow this plan, to give Jordan Love one of the best rosters in the NFL by far. While also, again, if he doesn't play to par, let's say everything goes our way except Jordan Love looks mediocre. In the next year, it's not going to cost us a lot or anything, to move on from Jordan. At that point, again, I have one of the best rosters in the NFL constructed for a 3 to 5 year window with hopefully a maturing draft class getting better. And now I have tons of ammo in the 2024 draft that I can trade up and go get any quarterback I want because there's always going to be a team like Chicago that's in that top 4 that's willing to move out. And that's, like I said, an ideal. So either you get Jordan Love, he plays, holy crap, this is why he sat behind Aaron Rodgers. This is what we wanted. Wow. And again, he's like, well, 1 year wonder. You might be able to work out a pretty good contract that doesn't destroy your roster, and you're still in a really good, 3 to 5 year window. Or, again, it doesn't work out. You move on. You're like, man, first round exit playoffs, hate my Packers, but I love them. And then you're like, hey, we're going to go get the number 1 quarterback in the draft this year. Hey, we already had the best roster in the NFL this year, and it's not really changing. Hey, it could be a good situation for the Packers. They have pushed a good bit of money into the future, of course, like with the Rodgers thing. So we're going to have to be really reliant on having a pretty good draft as well as, developing our players. But as the GM of the Packers, if hypothetically, I've seen pretty good draft return, decent draft return, but pretty good coaching and development of the players. And contract-wise, other than those big names we talked about earlier, the contracts are not bad. Buffalo Bills have a lot of names with money. And with the draft money, like we talked about, we could go a bunch of different ways. If you really don't want to move on from Lewis and Tunyon, you can probably with that draft or free agency money sign both and not really attack tight end as much, which I don't know y'all's opinions on. Lewis is just my opinion too old. We got to move on. Maybe he comes back on a cap friendly deal. Tunyon played pretty well, but I don't think he's that guy, and I'd rather get that guy settled for the next 3 to 5 years, whether it be free agency or draft. And same thing, Lowry, defensive lineman Lowry played pretty well. It's about, though, finding money and what's out there on the market. I just think for money-wise, how well he played and his expiring contract and what he might be able to get, that we can bring back, oh my gosh, I talked about it earlier. Jaron Reed, basically. And then we're going to, again, throw some draft picks kind of at defensive line. So, later in the draft, cornerback, safety, D-line, basically, just fill that roster, especially if in the draft we can get a wide receiver and an edge player and like maybe that running back. Let's say we do that and we go first round pick is a wide receiver. Second round pick is a halfback. Second round pick is an edge rusher. Now I have 2/3, possibly 2/4 maybe, to work with. I'm going to pick up probably some O linemen, maybe a linebacker, tight end. And then after that, every pick is just going to build depth basically in the secondary and defensive line. And I feel like at that point, I would feel pretty comfortable walking into the next season. And again, you still might have some cap money to sign, maybe like a good veteran defensive lineman or something. You're just going to have a good amount of flexibility to fill holes no matter what. So I feel like you're going to get maybe 2 big free agents, and then you're going to kind of quiet down before the draft. But of course, after the draft, you're going to fill holes. Like I said, Packers, you got some things to look forward to. It's not all fire and brimstone post Rodgers. Don't get me wrong though, when that $30 million dead cap basically hits in 2024, you might have to move on from Becca Terry or whatever his name is, your left tackle, and you're probably going to have to move on from Kenny Clark. So with that being said, in the draft, it's also why probably they predicted left tackle. You might have your restricted free agent might take over at left tackle, might play better at right tackle though. So we could start looking at the future there at defensive tackle and left tackle. But I mean, and there's the worst case option. I didn't even explore it too much. But if you cut Kenny Clark and signed, a defensive tackle that you could get maybe instead of $10 million play, like $8 million play out of, but instead of paying him $20 million, you're again paying him actually $8 million. You know what I'm saying? Or paying him that $10 million price. There's a lot of different ways we could go. Of course, like I just finished my presentation and we hit the highest viewer count we've had since I started. If I get at least one comment from someone new that hasn't said anything in this chat, I will restart this presentation, especially if they're a Packers fan. But with that, I'd love to actually go in more into like questions and chat in general. And if we don't have too much, I'll at least end the recording for podcast. But let's take a couple looks at chat here. Andy, again, talking about the 10-yard split, 3-cone drill is going to be something to watch big at the combine. Look for high RAS scores for Packer picks. You're absolutely right. Penguin says perfect. Yes, 4 to 5 window with a young quarterback. I'm really excited for Jordan. And you really might have a lot to look forward to with Jordan Love. And like I said, the worst case scenario, you get to move on from Jordan for nothing, probably get a comp pick in return potentially. And again, you're in a really good window with potentially then a young rookie quarterback and the 2024 quarterback class might have like a really good star or two in it. Penguin says, I don't think we should get a wide receiver in the draft because we already have Watson. And see, maybe you do feel comfortable going forward with like Lazard and Watson as your number 1 and number 2. And instead of that high, first round pick on a wide receiver, you could go get a tackle. And maybe if that free agency money, maybe you can find someone to upgrade that slot wide receiver, like a friendly, like $2 to $5 million deal for a good wide receiver. You have that cap flexibility if we do everything that we do. And again, that's a very good prospect right there. Bring in another first round pick tackle, a second round pick edge rusher, and a second round pick like Bijan Robinson, a really high running back. Again, if we're bringing in someone like Hayden Hurst as a tight end, that's kind of like big 3. It's just more of, would you rather have like the big 4 weapons potentially? And again, all 3 of those guys growing together for the next few years? Or would you rather maybe have a little turnover on the slot. See, it's one of those ones I would like to have those three as your top three wide receivers. After that, you've got to find good depth. That's where I would like to sign, some. At that point, again, you might be able to attract some free agent wide receivers that are kind of like, oh, they might be able to get a ring. Those good veteran guys that could, again, help your young guys develop. Because at that point, you have Christian Watson on a 4-year deal. You would have Lazard on our plan, either a 3 to 5 year deal. At that point, if we select a wide receiver in the first round, he's on a 4-year deal with a 5th-year option. So that would give us 3 number 1 hopeful wide receivers that all have their contracts coming up on different years, which would give us future flexibility on, okay, who are we keeping, who are we not? We're eventually going to have to make a decision if they all play, what we hope them playing at, essentially. Like, oh, it's Chimera. Chimera, dark horse candidate on top of the Jets getting Rodgers would be the Dolphins we covered. Andy got some Jordan Love vibes here in the chat as well. So Packers seem like they're ready to make the Love transition. As someone who had to go through Flacco to Lamar and, McNair and Bowler, and, we had to go through a few ourselves. I understand what it's like to go through this, and I just hope everything goes well for the Packers in that regard, basically. Because we talked about it, things could go nuclear for the Packers, and that is the absolute worst case scenario. It would destroy the Packers' chance this year and for the next few years potentially. Hopefully it doesn't go that route, but it's a real possibility. And Chimera says the Packers need another wide receiver, maybe not the first round, but second or third. Chimera, I would love to get your opinions on this a little bit. I'm going to go back here on the slideshow. Because we talked a little bit about Chimera. The Packers could potentially trade back from pick 15 and pick up, if they were willing to trade back to about the 22-24 range, which would be behind Baltimore and Minnesota, which is not ideal, but it's not terrible. Basically they would probably be more at the end of the wide receiver run that I expect to start in the first round. But with that being said, that according to our draft trade chart, that would allow them to pick up a second round pick. So they would have, I'm trying to get back to it here. Yeah, so if Green Bay potentially traded back from pick 15 to pick like 24 to 26 range, which still would give them a very elite talent, they could get a second round pick. So again, at that point, Green Bay would be looking at this Jordan Love team with all the free agent picks we made. Like I said, and Chimera, I'm so sorry as a Bills fan, we have to address this. I could see, if my ideal situation, bringing Tremaine Edmonds from the Bills to the Packers and letting Devondre Campbell in a trade or cut situation. Because then at that point, again, I think the Packers can take an elite step as a defense. So in our ideal situation, we're bringing Tremaine Edmonds to take over as linebacker. We're bringing Hayden Hurst to take over as tight end and Von Bell to take over with Amos. But we also could keep Amos and pair them together and have a huge, top-level safety core. But so again, with that being said, with that first round pick, with a first round at pick 24 and then 2 second-round picks, Green Bay could go wide receiver, edge, or tackle, and so again, Chimera, what do you think about this? Allen Lazard, Christian Watson, Downs from UNC, Hayden Hurst with A.J. Dillon, and Bijan Robinson. Bijan may or may not be there, but Bijan level comparison, basically, with Jordan Love at the helm. That's a little scary, honestly. That's terrifying. I wouldn't want to face that. 2 6'5" guys that can take you deep at any point. Basically, 2 6'5" guys that have 4.5 to 4.3 speed. A wide receiver in the slot that can basically shows like Brandon Cook's potential beat anyone on a one-on-one. Hayden Hurst with great again, Hayden Hurst is like 6'5", 250, ran like a 4.5 40. That's scary. And if you remember from the game coverage, Chimera, Hayden laid the hammer on some guys blocking. So a really good blocker. And again, so we're getting a really good blocker like that for Bijan Robinson and A.J. Dillon, and we're going to run a power running scheme. Dillon can be the more power back. Bijan actually kind of feels almost like a Devin Singletary type mold. So you could have that explosive one-cut running style of Bijan Robinson with A.J. Dillon as a hammer. And then maybe go get someone like 6th round or bring in a really good marquee veteran on like a 1 million veteran minimum deal. Someone that's just going to be a good locker room presence. And again, this Green Bay offense is scary at that point. And again, so we go like wide receiver first round. We still got 2 second-round picks. Or one's going to be like Bijan, a good halfback, potentially. If Bijan's on the board, you take Bijan. If Bijan's not on the board, we could go a lot of routes. And again, the other high priorities, we could go offensive line or edge rusher in that second round. Because again, you can never have too many pass rushers, and you can never have too many offensive line. So in that instance, let's say we go wide receiver Downs from UNC to be a part of our big quad. We catch Bijan Robinson, best case scenario. We still have one more second round pick at that point to go offensive lineman or edge rusher, which either way I'm comfortable with. At that point, again, hopefully with everything going on, we have 2 third-round picks. With those 2 third-round picks, again, we can go linebacker to shore up behind Tremaine Edmonds. We can go with a tight end develop behind Hayden Hurst, and I'm sorry I forgot the other tight end that we're keeping via restricted free agency. So we have our 3 tight ends for the roster right there. Or again, keep loading O-line, man. So basically in those like second, maybe to 4th round, we're really going to make sure that those priority and secondary prios are addressed. Wide receiver, edge, O-line, tight end, and linebacker. After that, 4th through 7th, which again, we're hoping to have multiple picks in each round, essentially, almost. Load up on the secondary as well as the defensive line. Basically an interior pass rusher as well as, again, you already have a really good secondary. We're just looking to add depth. Someone that could, that late round bloomer that's going to be playing on a $900,000 6th round contract for 3 years that's playing at a $5 million level. That's what we're looking for. And like Chimera said, that is an insane wide receiver core. And Chimera, you weren't here. And if I have another viewer, again, if you're here, another viewer, say something, I'll go back over all of this. With everything we do in best case scenario, you can have that much space to make all of these moves. And again, let's say Allen Lazard blows the wide receiver market off and wants like $15 million instead of that, like the $11 million that we allocated for him, which $11 million a year, I feel like is a fair number for Allen Lazard. That's then $11 million we can go get any other that's like basically $11 million. I could go spend $8 million on another wide receiver that pretty much fills the mold. And then instead of Downs, I can go any wide receiver I want. Because if I'm keeping Lazard and Watson, those 2 6'5" guys, basically, I want someone smaller. So as much as I love Johnson from TCU, it's just 3 6'5" guys, that's too much, man. I'm not playing basketball out there, But so and like I said though, the dream scenario, we got Lazard, Watts, that is scary. And we, like I said, we still have room to fill holes in free agency. Yeah, and that's why I said when I was breaking down this roster, Penguin Goat says I'm really excited for this tight end. I'm telling you, man, Baltimore only traded Hayden Hurst because we had Mark Andrews. We didn't want to let Hayden Hurst go, and Hayden played really good football. Played more like a second-round pick, but that's still fine by me. He's got a good frame, and I think he would do well in Green Bay, and I think he would like it there. James Oliver is someone who's not talked about a lot, but I think is a sneak. That's someone you could sneak sign, and instead of paying him maybe $8 million for that tight end, you could pay $3 million. And so in that case, like say we go Oliver instead of Hayden Hurst, I might push up that tight end again to that like second, third round. Let's say that happens. We don't nail the tight end that we truly, truly want. Later, Andy, thanks for coming in, man. So we go wide receiver. We still pick up Downs. So we're going into the year with Oliver and our restricted free agent tight end. There's been a lot of good tight ends mocked to Green Bay as well. So we could flip one of those second round picks into possibly a tight end as well. If there was like a first round tight end that slipped into the second round, basically. You know what I'm saying? So no matter what, we're going to be able to find a tight end that can take this offense to the next level. It's like I said, Green Bay fans have a lot to look forward to as long as everything kind of goes like what we were talking about here on the stream. With that being said, I'm going to really open up here. I doubt anyone other than, Penguin and Chimera. Do you have any questions about what you think the Packers? What do you think of the Packers? Do you agree 10 wins in playoffs with Jordan Love if we follow this model? Just what are your general thoughts? Oh, just watch my view count drop from 4 to 2. And that's fine. Chimera, actually, I feel like we're kind of almost at the end here. I'm definitely probably getting ready to. Chimera says he's unfortunately can't stick around. Euphonium practice today. We really like music here in the channel as well, so I appreciate you even coming out, Chimera. It's always big for me. And again, I'm trying to set this also up as a podcast style, so. If you ever are listening to this as a podcast, definitely like, subscribe, come check me out. We're, of course, doing primarily Ravens content, but we're going to be doing a lot of draft, combine, and, of course, future coverage on the NFL. Penguin Goat says they have a question. He's going to say, when are we doing this collab video? And honestly, I enjoy being kind of being held accountable to have to do these videos, because otherwise I wouldn't. Penguin says I am going to stay longer. Yeah, I'm not quite done yet. My streams have been doing usually like 2 to 3 hours, so I'm trying to get to 2 hours here at least. But like I said, the Packers situation was way easier, in my opinion, than the Bills was that I had to do yesterday. While we have some time here on the stream, actually, let's do maybe a little bit of free agency preview. And talk about cap space for the 2023 season. Verify these numbers that I've been talking about a little bit. Chimera says, really quick though, Green Bay makes playoffs as 7 seed, loses the Minnesota wild card game. All right, Chimera, you getting some shots fired here at Packers Nation and the Packcast. I disagree, Chimera. I think they go to the playoffs. I think if everything goes as I say it will, I think the Packers take a step to an elite defense, and I think they could potentially win the division. I still don't see the deep playoff run, but you'll get your answer to Jordan Love next year. And that's primarily what I'm looking for as the GM of the Packers. Is Jordan Love going to be my guy? Or I'm prepared already. Do I need to go get a guy in the 2024 draft? Penguin says, I have a lot of time. Gunny's asked, so is Jordan Love the guy then? For this year, yes. For me, I'm ready to move on from Rodgers. No matter what, there's going to be consequences, whether you trade him, whether he retires. At this point, as the GM, it's my job to continually look at the future of the franchise while always being able to put out a team that is competitive and Super Bowl worthy for my fan base. With that being said, it's time. It's time for Rodgers and the Packers to move on. It's going to be sad. We love Rodgers in Green Bay, just like we loved Favre. You know, it's just time. But like we talked about, Gunny, this is a great opportunity. We're in a great situation as a Packers GM to basically field every opportunity for Jordan Love to succeed next year. Basically, we can look at Jordan Love and say there is no way you shouldn't be a top 10 offense with our scheme because we trust our coaches and with the talent we're giving you. And basically, you're looking at Jordan Love. Hey, it's put up a top 10 offense and show us maybe you're continuing this growth as a quarterback, or we're in the ideal situation to move on from Jordan Love in 2024 and put a rookie quarterback in there with, again, this roster that should be able to put up a top 10 offense. Oh, said I went from 3 viewers to 0. That is heartbreaking. Chimera said later, bye Chimera, thanks for dropping in as always. One of the OGs, that reason why we did the Bills yesterday. Penguin Goats asked, do you think the end from the Bills is going to go to the Packers is my question. The end. Are you talking about Shaq Lawson? Let me check my notes here from yesterday. Oh, are you talking about, who are you talking about? Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones, Shaq Thompson. I'm trying to remember the other ones. Yeah, and as Penguin just said, R.I.P. to Rodgers. You know, it's sad, but it's one of those ones. It's the nature of the game. It happens, you know, it's always gonna happen. Favre moved on, Flacco moved on, you know, Wilson has moved on, Peyton Manning moved on. It's gonna happen eventually, and in the best case scenario, like in a lot of these scenarios, like case in point Russell's, it's sad, but he didn't leave the franchise in a bad state, especially with the trade package that was negotiated for him. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy. There's 2 in the chat, but my view count says 0. And of course, you said yes, Penguin Goats. If you're talking about Shaq, if I'm the Bills, according to my free agency plan, I'm bringing Shaq back on a pretty good deal. Lawson signed a 1-year deal with the Bills last year. He wanted more money, but he couldn't get it. He might be able to this year on this market, but I think he goes back to the Bills on a pretty cap-friendly deal. And it's one of those ones I already think, in my plan, we're stealing Tremaine Edmonds from the Bills already, which is going to be our big. If we can get Shaq Lawson on a decent deal, Shaq Lawson could potentially take the place of. Let me find my free agents. Someone like Justin Hollins, who we're planning to possibly keep around. Justin Hollins for the Packers took 40% snaps. So it's one of those ones, if you thought Shaq Lawson had a higher potential than someone like Justin Hollins, you could easily make that trade as well. But Shaq wants a big deal. He thought maybe with the Bills and Vaughn, he was going to be able to put up numbers to get the big end. The tilt end. The Thite end. I'm so confused now. Now I'm like trying to look at my Bills notes. Shaq's. Oh, the tight end. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, they are letting a tight end probably walk in free agency. He is on that list if I'm not mistaken, actually. Let's look here. So case in point, control find tight end. So the number 1 tight end on the free agent market is actually going to be Dalton Schultz, possibly from the Dallas Cowboys. 83% grade overall, 76, basically a little bit better run blocker than catcher. He's an option. Evan Ingram from the Jacksonville Jaguars, another really good pass catching tight end with like 700 yards, could be an option. You know, Hayden Hurst, who I talked about, is only ranked 74th on the list. So here's the thing, though. Like I said, the tight end markets might be a little crazy. Dalton Schultz from the Cowboys is projected to get almost like $14 million a year. That's a little rich for my blood. Even though I do want to fill the option, like I'm trying to find my solution in the free agent market for tight end. I don't think pay to play wise, I don't think it's worth it. Evan Ingram, I really like as a pass catcher. He's projected to potentially get $12 million a year. So again, still a little too rich for my blood for the Packers. Maybe it's a better deal, but also Evan Ingram has had some injury concerns that I don't like. So which brings me to the number 3 tight end right now on the top 100 list by PFF, which is Hayden Hurst. Hayden's predicted to get a 3-year, $9.5 million deal, which when we talked about earlier, if you remember when I was talking about the tight end signing, $9 million is what I was expecting and allocating. So Hayden Hurst basically getting a top 100 player tight end in free agency, ranked number 74 overall, for $9 million on a 3-year deal. Again, now we're putting together that insane wide receiver and tight end core for 3 to 5 years. And again, if we don't go Hayden Hurst, we can still probably find cheaper. Austin Hooper is a potential free agent from the Tennessee Titans. Again, another really good pass catching threat that just didn't get utilized in Tennessee. So especially if Rodgers doesn't go to Tennessee, Hooper's probably not staying in Tennessee. So there's, again, a little bit cheaper option than Hayden Hurst, number 80 on the top 100 list. Again, going a little further, Dallas Goedert, of course, is the tight end in Philly. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's Marcus Epps, the safety. They just talk about him for some reason. There's also going to be Foster Moreau. He's ranked 98th on this top list. Again, this is going to be a big tight end market. He's predicted to get right on the money, $9 million a year, because the Raiders have Darren Waller, so they can't afford to pay 2 tight ends that big money. So another one on this list, you know what I'm saying? Like, there are so many tight ends to choose from that we can spend somewhere probably between $9 and $5 million and get our tight end situation fixed, in my opinion. And yes, Penguin, in my plans, you are spending somewhere between $9 and $5 million for a tight end in free agency, while bringing back your restricted free agent tight ends. Tyler Davis. So ideally, your tight end room for next year would be Hayden Hurst, Tyler Davis, and a rookie from the draft, which I think is more than acceptable. And the rookie in the draft, his draft position will depend on that pay range that we pay the tight end. So if we get Hayden Hurst, we can wait later in the draft for the tight end position. If we get Oliver or a lower, like that $5 million tight end, we might push up tight end more to like a 3rd round pick, maybe even 2nd round pick. Because like we have 2 pretty good tight ends, not like really good tight end. So either way, tight end is, because I played tight end when I actually played football, guys. I was 6'3", about 230. I wanted to get to 250. So I was a little lacking in height, more like a linebacker build. But I ran a 4.5 myself, basically. Or I'm sorry, I ran 4.7. I could have got it down to 4.5 with weightlifting, in my opinion. So the tight end situation is going to get fixed. Baltimore Gunny asks, could Hurst take less to stay with the Bengals? He very well might. That is a potential option, to be honest with you. It's one of those ones, though, like we just said, the tight end market is going to be pretty good this year. Let's check over the cap Hayden Hurst and see, this is why I love having viewers, guys, because I love when you ask me questions, because if I've learned one thing in life, It's not about knowing everything. It's about being able to find accurate information quickly and being able to come back. So Hayden Hurst, according to OTC, because we like to use OTC, played at $6.5 million. But this tight end market's going to be nuts. So his value might be inflated to that 15 million. And let's check one more thing. Over the cap, Cincinnati Bengals. Let's see what cap situation the Bengals in, because that's going to play a big part. The Bengals have $35 million in cap, so they could keep Hayden Hurst. And that's one of those ones we might see some of these tight ends not hit. Evan Ingram, there's a high chance, from my understanding, he doesn't hit the market either. And that's why I put someone like Oliver on the board. I think Oliver's going to hit the market. He's going to be cheaper than $9 million, and I think he actually plays about as good as Hayden Hurst. I think Hayden Hurst is a little better pass catcher, but I like Oliver's pass catching potential a little bit. Penguin, just asking questions. Penguin says, I have a question I really won't. Jordan Love does good. Do you think he will? I think, and maybe Penguin, I'll dedicate some time next week to a video. Because, I'm going to be doing a lot of draft videos soon, especially looking at those top 5 quarterbacks in the draft. I haven't done enough film study on Jordan Love to know if he's going to be that guy. But that's why I'm saying I'm confident if we follow my plan, we will absolutely be able to see, first of all, if Jordan Love is our franchise guy, which is the most important thing I want to find out. And 2, even if Jordan Love is subpar, an adequate quarterback, I feel like I'll still have enough team to be able to give my fans something to be excited about. I think from what I've seen from Jordan Love, he has potential. He has the tools. He has arm strength. He has mobility. I'm not sure on his progressions and his ability to read NFL defenses. Now, however, that is something that sitting behind Aaron Rodgers, you're supposed to get better at. But what if secretly Jordan Love is a little too much like Kyler Murray and a little less like Aaron? Because, when I make that reference, I was saying, Aaron sat behind Favre and then came in and played well. Whereas Kyler Murray, instead of doing film study, is playing Call of Duty because he's not taking his job seriously. I don't know enough about Jordan Love, but I have a feeling Jordan Love's going to come out with a chip on his shoulder. And no matter what, he's going to have the roster, according to us, to be able to put together one heck of a team. But yeah, looking at the cap space, guys, real quick, we were talking about that a little bit. The Chicago Bears right now, that's Spot Track. I don't like Spot Track. Where's my over the cap source? We like to keep our sources consistent. Over the cap. Here we go. Nope, that's not numbers. Here we go. All right, so the Bears are entering free agency with $93.5 million. Of course, number one in money in free agency this year. The next closest team is the Atlanta Falcons, which again, why they're kind of a hot spot for Baltimore too. They could sign Lamar. They have the cap money to give him the extension, and still, with their young team, be pretty aggressive in free agency and have spent a lot of draft capital. And that's why I feel like if Lamar does get traded, he's going to the Falcons. But so to put it in perspective here, the Bears are number one with 93 million. The next highest team, the Falcons, only have $56 million in cap. That is a $40 million difference, guys. They almost have double the amount of cap of any team in the NFL next year. And that's why I'm saying this is going to be a really good free agency class. And again, Chicago says we don't need a quarterback, which is huge. And they're in the same situation as the Packers are going to be in. If Justin Fields doesn't work out with every tool around him, because they not only have the most cap space in the NFL by far, but they have good draft capital. So Justin Fields, just like I'm planning for Love, is going to have one of the best rosters in the NFL by far. So if he doesn't get the job done in 2024, we can again have one of the best rosters in the NFL with a rookie quarterback from the 2024 class. Bengals are going to be in a really good position too, guys, to make another run. They're sitting as a top 5 team with 35 million, which is really hard to believe. But if I remember right, looking at that Joe Burrow contract, holy crap, was that a team-friendly contract, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see here. Going back to chat here, Penguin, it's the same deal with Favre and Rodgers and Love sitting behind. Exactly. Green Bay has shown that that's their belief system, and it's worked pretty well. You can't really argue with it, you know. So it's just one of those ones. It's up to the Love. And as we talked about earlier in the video, everything's going to come down to Jordan Love just about. You're either going to be a first-round playoff exit team, in my opinion, and that's with Love playing pretty bad. Because again, in free agency, we're going to go find a quarterback. Let me see here. So, yeah, guys, I want you to think about this. I'm still like, Joe Burrow for the next 4 years will never hit the cap for more than $11 million, which is insane. Insane. His cap hit is never more than 11. Let's put it in perspective. Aaron Rodgers' cap hit is 30. Joe Burrow has given the Bengals an opportunity to be a Super Bowl caliber team around a Super Bowl. Case in point, OTC evaluated Joe Burrow's play this past year at worth $44 million, which is right about right. It should be $44 to $46 million, which is what a lot of quarterbacks are asking for. His 2020 cap hit, 6.5. 21 cap hit, 8.2. 22 cap hit, 9.8. 23 cap hit, 11.5. And just the bonuses are so spaced out. He's got basically $5 million prorated bonus every year. He's got a roster bonus, basically meaning if he makes the roster, which he will, slowly increasing from 2 to 5. And then his cap hit goes from 6, 8, 9, 11. Like, it's so ridiculous. Like, and there's no dead money in the deal until 2023. Like, it's insane, the Bengals window, honestly, as a Ravens fan. It's frustrating. Like, all right, going back to chat here. I get Brett Hundley vibes from Love. Just me, says Baltimore Gunny. And see, that's the thing, Gunny. He might be. But just like Hundley with our defense, if you have a good enough team around them, and again, like if everything goes like we planned it, that wide receiver core makes us look like a joke, you know? So it's even if he is Hundley kind of vibes, that's still a one game exit playoff team, essentially. Whereas if he plays somewhere between Lamar and Huntley, that's a potential Super Bowl team, even if Love's not playing MVP level. Penguin says, I have a question. I have a question. Do you mind if you tell Gunny to subscribe to Gunny? Definitely check out Penguin Goat's channel. If you like it, give him subscribe. He's trying to build a channel just like I am, and I think he's going to be covering possibly Packers content in the future. And of course, we're always looking to do like collaborations and stuff like that. But I wanted to look at too, because like I talked about, if we go forward with Jordan Love as the guy, I'm looking to bring in a good veteran behind him, but not going to cost a lot. So, like I said, this quarterback market off the top: Tom Brady, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Jimmy Garoppolo, Teddy Bridgewater, Dan Jones, Mason Rudolph, Jacoby Brissett, Geno Smith. And like right there's a bunch of young, promising, other than Tom Brady and Baker, not young, but a lot of, and I guess Garoppolo, but there's a lot of good, young, promising quarterbacks or good talent quarterbacks right there. And that's not including the trade market: Lamar, Derek Carr, yada yada. So then though, going to like that next tier of quarterbacks, we got like Joe Flacco, Casey Keenum, Andy Dalton, Mike White, Tyler Heineke, Blaine Gabbert, Chad Henne, Chase Daniel, Nathan Peterman, Cooper Rush might be a free agent, Tracy McSorley, Tyler Huntley could be. He's a restricted free agent. Jared Stidham, Gardner Minshew. So all of those names, if I have Jordan Love as my quarterback, all of those names I just listed, I'm looking to bring them on, average backup quarterback deals, because again, all of those names with the number one defense and a top 5 offense potential around like wide receiver, tight end, offensive line speaking, any of those quarterbacks I named could very well potentially, again, take you to the playoffs and maybe even win a Super Bowl. Dude, like case in point, Cooper Rush is an unrestricted free agent. Cooper Rush you bring Cooper Rush on a moderate deal. And then one of those ones, Jordan Love stinking up halfway through the season. Well, Cooper Rush looked good in Dallas. Let's see what he looks with this top 5 offense and the number 1 defense. And let's say all of a sudden Cooper Rush is like looking like Brock Purdy all of a sudden, and like he did in those 3 games, like killing it, Well, okay, now we could kind of move with because again, you're probably going to sign Cooper Rush maybe like 2-year deal, probably, maybe at worst case a 1 year. So again, let's say you sign Cooper Rush on like a 2-year, 2.5, 5 million, like something kind of low, but of course more than he's making. He only made $1 million this year. So even if you got him on a $2.5 million contract, that's more than he made. He might take it. He's going to get some serious looks in free agency, and he's going to be brought in a lot of places, probably like Packers, where they want to kind of push the guy a little bit, and maybe also, like I said, if things don't go well halfway through the season, you might have a guy to take over. So let's say, best case scenario, we sign Cooper Rush to back up Jordan Love and compete with him on a 2-year deal. Let's say, again, Jordan Love stinks up. We have to put Cooper Rush in. Best case scenario, Cooper Rush plays out of his mind. If that happens, then you have Cooper Rush on a $2.5 million deal for the next year. So going into the first year in 2024, when you are dealing with the Aaron Rodgers cap casualty situation, your franchise quarterback might be playing for $2.5 million. Which again, yeah, you're in a great situation. So it's one of those ones, even with Jordan Love, I think with Jordan and with one of these mid-tier backup quarterbacks, again, we've got serious potential here, because with all of these bigger names on free agency and trade market, that's going to dominate free agency. So case in point, if you approach Cooper Rush early in free agency with a pretty decent deal, you might get Cooper Rush before his price dries up. because it's one of those ones. What I expect is, of course, all the top 10 names to come off of that almost immediately. Maybe 3 of those names, like Flacco, are going to go pretty quickly as veteran backups. But guys like Mike, if Mike White hits unrestricted, Cooper Rush, Tyler Henneke, Minshew, maybe guys like that. Teams are like, they're not the established veteran, but they might have some potential actually, or they're going to grow into a really good established veteran. And so those guys, if they're not going to get signed right away, they're going to have to wait till like the second or third wave of free agency. And a lot of them, if you approach them early enough and give them the guarantee and like, oh, thank God I don't have to wait and do all this crap for 3 months and then make sure I'm on a team where I want to be and all this, you know. And also, again, Cooper Rush, if I'm Cooper Rush, do I want to go be a backup to like Josh Allen, for example, or, you know, who's probably going to play almost every game? Or would I rather maybe go to that Jordan Love situation where, again, I'm like, man, the roster they built for this kid, I could put up points. Again, he's going to see that, be like, if you don't do well, I'm going to do well. And I could really see that, you know. And that's the thing. So let me go back to chat here. Penguin says he has something really special planned for his 100 subscriber special. Go watch it. I'll definitely go check it out after this, whenever I kill the channel. Baltimore Gunny says you might be overselling on Jordan Love, but we'll see. And that's the thing. You kind of got to a little bit for a Packers fan. You got to give him something to be hyped about. You know what I'm saying? You got to be happy and about something. But it's one of those ones. Like I said, I don't care, because even if Jordan Love falls flat on his face, we're going to have a backup plan to make the playoffs and stay competitive for 2023. And if Jordan Love doesn't work, I'm still confident I'm going to put up like a top 10 offense and defense while bringing in a very high round 2024 first round quarterback. Just to give an example here, 2024 NFL quarterback prospects. So I think one of the ones that's talked about a lot for 2024 is going to be Caleb Williams from USC. He's number 1 on the list. The UNC kids on there. I mean, there's quite a few on the list, to be honest with you. University of South Carolina's kid, who had some good games, is coming out too. But so, like, case in point, I'm just going to use Caleb Williams for this example, basically. So let's say Caleb Williams is the number 1 quarterback coming out in 2024, and the Jordan Love didn't play well. The Packers would be in a situation potentially, especially using those extra picks like we were talking about earlier, trading picks now for future picks so we can make sure we do have that ammo to trade up if we need to. So we could go get Caleb Williams from USC next year, and Caleb Williams, with the hype he has right now, with, again, a top 10 offense and defense, again, as a Packer fan, now, honestly, I'm like even more excited for that personally. But that's because I'm biased towards the draft and younger players. You know, but no matter what, Packers got some real exciting things to look forward to. And again, Penguin, Goats, and Be More Ravens Gunny, I really appreciate y'all dropping in for the stream, sticking around all the chat and the questions. Gunny, are you a former military man? Just when I hear Gunny, I think of the Marines. Let's see here though. Yeah, we talked a little bit here, guys. You know, about the top team caps. Let's talk about the bottom 5 teams in cap. So, I mean, we got to talk about it, and it's why the Derek Carr to New Orleans, no matter how much hype there was, and I might do a video. If I'm going to do the Bears, I have to do the Saints. The Bears have $93 million in cap. The Saints are negative $60 million. They are $60 million over the cap, guys. Which I didn't even think was possible. And heaven forbid there's a small chance with that 30, if we don't do everything right for the Packers roster for now in the future, that's a small chance that could be the Packers next year because of all the extra money that Aaron Rodgers, basically. But so going up from worst in the league to the fifth worst, you have Saints negative 60, Buccaneers negative 55, Vikings negative 23. Keep your eye on that. Jaguars negative 22 and Titans negative 21. The Bills are at negative 16, so they're pretty up there too. The Bills, like we worked through the other day, there's a lot to get out of the negative. Packers, easy to get out of the negative. From the Titans down, though, and this is why the Titans might not be in the Rodgers sweepstakes, because they are in cap heck. The Jaguars might not be able to keep Evan Ingram because the cap situation. And this is why we talked about the Vikings. I can see getting upset. Being $23 million over the cap in 2023 is not a good look. And no matter what, you're going to have to find money on that roster for something or someone. You know what I'm saying? So the Vikings, I haven't done a video on it, but they might be in tune for a roster rehaul. At negative 16 for the Buffalo Bills with a franchise quarterback on the roster, we talked about it. I struggled to find enough room to just keep the team together, basically. So with the Vikings sitting, for $7 million worse than that, I'm going to tell you, it's going to be a rough one, and there's either going to be a serious retool going on in Minnesota, or they're going to work some magic that I don't know about yet. And that brings us to the two problem childs, the Buccaneers and the Saints. Negative 55 and negative 60, and that's why we talked about Buccaneers cannot re-sign Brady. Buccaneers cannot re-sign that left guard who's one of the better guards in the NFL. They might have to let Ryan Jensen go. The Buccaneers might be in for a complete rebuild. They're a dark horse for Lamar because, of course, they're going to be looking for a guy. They're going to be looking to try to keep the hype of that franchise alive, like when they did bring Tom Brady there. But at negative $55 million, I mean, I'm going to pull it up real quick just to take a look. I talked lightly with a Saints fan about the Saints cap situation. And he's like, no, we're going to sign Lamar. We're going to do this. We're going to go do that. I'm like, bro, with what money? With what money? You have like a few months to get negative $60 million off the books. That's not an easy task. Gunny says, no, I get that a lot with gamer tag I've had for a while. I respect the Gunny title and try not to respect its history. I get that, man. Like, it's one of those ones, I've talked about here on the channel. I prepped like my entire life for military service. As a child, a lot of my books were like World War II strategy books, and I studied military strategy. I did 7 years of ROTC in high school, 2 semesters of Civil Air Patrol. I even have logged flight hours. So and I have a lot of friends that did or are military currently, so I definitely understand. But let's take a look here. Like the Buccaneers, man. Tom Brady counts for $35 million against the cap in 2023 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's rough. Like, I don't know if he retires. If 2023, yeah, is a void year. So, yeah, basically for this year alone, due to void years, Tom Brady has $35 million on the books for the Buccaneers this year. But there's nothing in the... So, they added 4 years. So, his contract is technically a 6-year contract. But it was only actually 2 years. The third year, he's due $35 million basically in cap. And then 2024, 2025, and 2026, he's paid prorated bonuses, but that basically what the prorated bonuses, from my understanding, is the money you get at signing. So in the contract, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, he was given about 50 to $55 million at signing, and then also given a little more, but 35 of that was basically put into 2023. Void years are really weird. So even though he did. Is he officially retired? I don't even know if he's done the announcement yet. No matter what, though, even though Tom Brady's gone, he's gonna hit the Bucks cap for $35 million, and there is nothing they can do about it. That's rough to work around. So then after that, they've got Chris Godwin on a $23 million contract. Again, kind of hard to do here. Like, here, I'm going to do an example. Let me see here, actually. We're going to. Here, I'm going to show you a little bit here. I'm going to try to transform this so I can get a better view. So please bear with me just a moment while I try to like make this better. Trying to crop the thing so it perfectly makes it bigger so that y'all can see exactly what I'm doing and talking about here. Perfect. Let's crop the top a little more. And we'll crop the bottom a little more. Beautiful. All right, so I don't know if you can officially see this on the screen, but this is OTC over the caps calculator model. So right here in the top, it's not showing my, oh, there we go. So my mouse to the right of the team logo is the seasons, their total liabilities, total salary cap, and then cap space. So as you can see right here, $55 million over the cap because it's in red. So we're $55 million over. What I can do here, it's really cool, is on the transactions, I can cut pre-June, trade pre-June, cut post-June, trade post-June, restructure and extend. And also here on the right, the free agents can be actually added with franchise tags or contracts. Now, I will admit, I'm still trying to work specifically on how to do these. Like, so I'm going to use an example here with Logan Ryan. If I hit extend, I can create basically his contract here, where I can do the base salary, prorated, non-prorated, guarantee salary, and it'll calculate a cap hit for me. I can also add void years, signing bonus, etc. A pretty cool system. I'm still trying to perfect it so that I can present you with very accurate cap numbers, not, as we talked about earlier, like here's the worst, pray for the best kind of situation. Baltimore Gunny, quick one in chat. Who will have the most losing record next season? NFC South or AFC? Oh, NFC South. I'm sorry. It's the NFC South. Especially if the Panthers don't fix their quarterback situation. It's the NFC South. The Buccaneers are in such cap heck. They're going to have to destroy their roster. The Saints are kind of in the situation where the Buccaneers and Saints are just about, in my opinion, in full rebuild mode. The Panthers are in slight rebuild mode, kind of retool because they have a good defense. And who's the other NFC South? Jacksonville, isn't it? No. Yes, Jacksonville. Oh no, it's the Falcons. I'm sorry, Falcons. Falcons actually, again, Falcons could get Lamar. So AFC South, we've talked about what if Rodgers lands there with Benimi. The Titans competitive. It really depends on their quarterback situation. I think the Titans are going to be competitive, and I think the Titans are going to be if the Falcons don't get someone like Lamar, I think the Titans are better than every team in the NFC South next year. Let's put it that way. No matter what they do at quarterback. And yeah, I do need to be doing shorts. I have a lot of video ideas. It's like I was talking about Penguin. Last weekend, I was supposed to be doing videos, but I was so out of it and just behind on everything that I didn't even realize it was the weekend when I was like, okay, I'm gonna be on here tomorrow to do the Bills edition. And then I realized it was Friday night. And like I said, I'm working on some contracts right now, professionally. Um, but so yeah, NFC South, in my opinion, is going to be the worst division of football next year. So like right here, working with the Buccaneers, though, we've got to make $55 million in cap. There's nothing I can do about Tom Brady. With that being said, I can't even look at a free agent right now unless like I can do something. With that being said, too, normally what I do is I also open my free agent tab here so I can take a look at the 2023 free agents. Or 2024. Since I can't sign anyone from 2023 being that far over, I'm looking at 2024 guys to extend is basically what I'm looking for. They are prime candidates for extensions, especially as we can see right here, their current API. So we've got a good amount of 4 million plus contracts coming up for extensions. Mike Evans being number one on the list. Mike Evans could be a really big trade target. If I'm the GM of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, to be honest with you, doing like a little preview here, I'm sorry, as to the fan base, we tried with Tom Brady, we did it, but now it's time for a rebuild. It's time to roster dump like crazy and get there. As you can see, 2024, they're going to have a lot of cap room. So it's one of those ones we just got to get through one really bad year. Whereas if we blow up the roster this year, I hate to be this person, you're kind of tanking for the number one pick for your quarterback. So you can bring in a number one quarterback with hopefully, like again, if you were able to trade Mike Evans, you're again going for a little bit of the 2024 draft, but a little also 2025, while also being able to have this thing. So again, I see Tampa heading for a complete rebuild, honestly. So with that being said, as much as Mike Evans is a beast, he's 30 years old. He's going to be 32, coming on 32 basically whenever his contract's done. And basically we're looking for those future years. At that point, you're better off trading Mike Evans. You might be able to get a first round pick if you trade him like right now, potentially. Especially if you trade not for a 2024 first round, but like a 2025 first round, you could probably get that for Mike Evans. It's not, like I said, not that he's a bad player. It's just in the rebuild, I'm looking for a little bit of a younger guy. So let's start with that. I'm going to trade. Let me work out here. So a post-June trade of Mike Evans nets us $14 million, basically. So if I hit submit here, you'll see my cap number up here actually changed from 45 to 40. So basically, there's a good chunk right there. Because we've got to get under the cap no matter what for the season. Yeah, Penguin, you might want to relax a little bit on it. He'll check it out. Don't worry. Gunny's a pretty good guy here. Looking again at these 2024 free agents. Donovan Smith is going to be a free agent. And so here's what my next step I usually do is we got to evaluate here the actual player. So here right now, here's the OTC evaluation. So he played at $5 million. He's hitting cap hits of 18 and then 17. Another one playing pretty well, might be able to get draft picks. Dude, if I'm blowing up this team, I'm going to blow up this team right. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to truly set up this team for one heck of a future. So instead of that 17 million hit, I mean, how old is he again? He's 29. So he's pretty young, but he's getting a little older. He's the same as Mike Evans, that 30, year old that we're not sure on. Trading him post June. There's another $15 million off the book. Now we're only down to negative 25. We're really getting there, guys. But we still got to make space. With that being said, and this shows you just how much we have to do to make space for this. Shaquille Mason is one of those ones where we talked about he might be a cap casualty. Shaquille's 29 playing at 11. Shaquille's one of the ones, instead of trading him or being a cap casualty, I'm going to try to work an extension with him because he's played really freaking well. Let me find him here on my list again. Here he is. So even though he's 30, he's going to stay around to hopefully anchor our line. So with nothing, he's on the cap for what's that? 9.5 million. If we can extend him, we can save $5 million, basically. And this is what kills me when I do the extend renegotiate. Unless I work the deal, it doesn't do it, basically. Let me see. Transaction. Yeah, it doesn't actually do it. So at that point, now we're at 20 million, and we secured Shaquille Mason for a future contract. We're in a pretty good situation. Let's keep working down this list. Devin White, our linebacker. Devin White hitting the cap for $7 million that year. Playing 6.3, so that's another one. We're going to try to extend Devin White if we can. Let's see, where's he at on this list here? Oh, he might not be a big hit this year. No, there he is. Okay. So Devin White here, cap hit 11. We're going to extend him. Oh, and there's another 8.5. So now, instead of 20 million, we're down to about 12 million. Well, I'm sorry, $11.5 million. Still over the cap, but we've traded to and we've extended to. That's not a bad situation to be in right now. But we again, if we're Tampa, we're still working here. Right tackle Tristan Wirfs coming up 2025. I'm pretty sure he's played pretty well, but let me see. I don't think. Yeah, $5 million. Probably not a lot there. Yeah, $1 million in savings, not a lot, but we're actually about 1.4. So we're going to round that to 1.5. So that gets us down to 10 flat over the cap. Still got to find more money though. Ryan Suckup, the kicker's going to come off the cap at $4 million. We're going to let that go. Cameron Bate. We kind of like him. Let's see what Bate played at real quick. Bate played 2.3. I'm not really going to mess with that contract. I mean, Cameron Bate 4. I don't want him around really for the future. I'm going to restructure that deal to save another 1.8. So that brings us down to $8.8 million over the cap. So we've kind of dealt with a lot of these bigger numbers here. If I restructure or extend any of these other names, their current cap hits aren't enough to make a difference. That's why we're not really going to explore that at all. With that being said, I'm still at 8.8 over the million. There's going to have to be some cuts or trades still. So let's look at this roster. Looking at people, I think the next one on that list is going to be Shaquille Barrett. Due $21 million in a rebuild team at 31 years old, basically. Only playing, according to OTC, at about $2 million. And I'm sorry I went from Green Bay to Bucks. I love talking it all, and it's so interesting to me. Wow, and again, so you got these void years here. So case in point, Shaquille Barrett's going to hit 2025 weirdly for almost $10 million. So Shaquille Barrett's not going to be in our plans here, and this is probably the last move we got to make. We're going to again go for a trade here, post, and right there, boom. Again, $14 million. That puts the Buccaneers now with one, two, well, I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, within 6 moves. Basically, 7 moves, 3 extensions, 1 restructure, and 3 trades that we can get the Tampa Bay Buccaneers under cap and with really good draft capital set for a huge rebuild in 2024. So like I just wanted to show you like this is kind of like what I sit here and work through and like work through everything like one by one kind of, and it's one of those ones I wish I had enough time here sitting here to do this for every single team, to be honest with you, because I enjoy it that much. So Gunny, at negative 8 million, I'm just trying to get out of the negative to start with, because in that essence, if we're blowing up the roster, 2023, I'm throwing away. I'm gonna bring in a sub-average quarterback, more than likely, who's just gonna game manage. And I'm sorry to my fan base, but I'm tanking for a high draft pick because as we saw there, if we did all that, our cap space in 2024 is going to be like 80 million. We're going to have like Bears level spending money. So we could throw away 2023 season to have potentially starting 2024 a huge 5-year window with a rookie quarterback, or you could go this route where we just went, where we blow up the roster 2023. 2024, we draft heavy and we spend heavy in free agency and we bring in a veteran quarterback if you're the Buccaneers. But just we were at negative 8.8, making that last move with I'm sorry the edge rusher's name, but Shaquille Barrett. Making that last move with Shaquille Barrett puts us over the cap. So again, at that point, if we want to extend some other younger players, some of those other free agents that were like around 4 million or so, or we want to start setting, because it's one of those ones what you could do is start setting the depth for 2024 this year. So clear the Shaquille Barrett one. Now you're in positive cap space. You can actually sign maybe one top tier free agent at that point. Maybe like a top mid tier free agent. But again, if we clear maybe one more bad contract off the books with a trade or cut, you could start signing more of those depth guys. You know what I'm saying? You don't go to get the guys, the big name guys you want. You're going to wait till 2024 free agency for that. But you could start building the depth on your team in 2023 so that when 2024 comes and you have 80 plus million and like the number 1 draft pick plus a bunch of extra picks from the trades you made or compensatory picks, whatever. Cuts don't really count towards compensatory though. But, again, you're trading, these guys for even low round ammo is worth it in my opinion, because we got to clear the money. So you're going to kind of see like Robert Quinn, a $20 million contract on a top 10 pass rusher for a 5th round pick. That's kind of what you can expect in that essence. Baltimore gun. I understand. I just figured beyond getting out of the negative, you had additional plans, but I get it. I would do a little more gunny if I was actually doing a video on the Buccaneers. I just got a little carried away by like how bad their cap situation is. And again, what their plan is, because you can kind of like we talked about Gunny, they're probably headed for a huge rebuild, but there's potential that they could turn it around in 1 year because of the cap space that's going to be available. A lot of teams have done good jobs of this. The Cleveland Browns, before they started building that super team basically around Baker, the Browns did an excellent job of shedding a lot of bad contracts and then setting up a 5-year window around Baker, basically, where they had a lot of money to spend on free agents every season and keep their guys there. So it's one of those ones. I'm saying, like, I'm sorry I got carried away talking about the Buccaneers on this Green Bay video and podcast. But hopefully maybe people will see also like a little bit like, hey, I've got more. I wish I had more fans. If I even had a single fan watch in this or any of my last two videos and be like, hey man, would you cover the Buccaneers? Would you cover the Colts? Best bet, it would be added to my long list of things, which of course these style videos are higher on my list because it kind of seems to be one of my, in my opinion, my better content ideas and creations. Of course, my live videos covering games is my highest view count kind of stuff right now, but I'm hoping that maybe some of these other videos will do better, especially like Penguin keeps talking about if I start doing my shorts better. Because YouTube shorts and also putting them across different platforms is going to be one of the bigger things to make sure I grow my channel here. Um, I don't know about y'all. If y'all can tell it, the caffeine, all the espresso. I've had 8 shots of espresso today and a cherry Coke. I'm starting to crash from caffeine. I've been going since like 10 o'clock this morning on some other. I had to work on some other stuff for work before, and then I last minute had like 2 hours to try to put everything together. Thankfully, this is why also I did a lot of my actual like note taking the day before on the Green Bay Packers because I knew I was gonna need the time today. Um, I think with that being said, though, I think we're about ready to wrap up the stream slash podcast. We're definitely reaching the end here. We covered, of course, today the Green Bay Packers, a little bit about Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In our future videos here and broadcast, guys, we're going to be doing a lot of draft coverage starting soon. I don't think anyone's also going to recommend the offseason plan for their team. Of course, if anyone does drop in and watch, guys, feel free to leave me a comment, send me a message. Hey, be like, hey, man, I want the offseason plan, Buccaneers edition or Bears edition or whatever, and I'll be more than happy to do the video. It's more one of those runs. I just want more the guarantee that someone's going to come in kind of to watch the video with us all. But like I said, so we're going to be turning a lot more towards free agency and draft. First draft until we get our franchise tag window. After franchise tag window expires and free agency is getting ready to start, we're going to switch kind of from draft to free agency heavy. And then, of course, back to the draft and then back to free agency. At that point in our channel, we might actually start moving towards a little bit of more fantasy football talk as well. Gunny, I don't know if you're a fantasy football guy, but I've got an open invite for fantasy football next season. And I don't know if you're a gamer, but for me, I think one of the funnest things I could have for this channel and in general for next season would be first at least one very like full like 12-man fantasy football team of hopefully subscribers and people, on from the channel. And even if you're a gamer, Madden and having an online franchise where each one of us basically controls a franchise, you know. And of course, you're a Baltimore fan. If you came in and participated in this, I would let you have the Ravens as much as it would kill me. But it's just one of those ones. You're one of my Baltimore Ravens fans that's coming in consistently. So, I mean, yeah. Of course, we'll let Penguin have the Packers. Chimera can have the Bills. Like, we can have some fun. Penguin says, no, don't end it. Don't do it. I had a weird joke. Grossi's thing is meowing. I can't take the meow. But I have another weird phrase I could start. Shmee. SHME. It's also the abbreviation for my biofuel cell idea, the solar harvesting mitochondrial engine. But so Shmee might become the new catchphrase of D-Rave's channel. Shmee. Shmee. It's Shmee D-Rave. But Penguin Goat says, hey, I have a question. Do you think I'll hit 1K by the end of 2023? Penguin, I predict you will hit 1K before the end of 2023. If I'm not mistaken, I think 1K subscribers and like an average view count, I forgot, of like a few thousand is what it takes to become an affiliate, not an affiliate, but what's the word I'm looking for? Not partner either, but basically, monetizing your channel. That's what I'm looking for. I think it's 1,000 subscribers and an high average view count. Of course, that's where we're trying to get to. No, not Shmee, not Shmee, Shmee. But I'm trying to get to 1,000 myself. I feel like in a dream world, I would be able to be even like half as big as Grossi, and be able to monetize my channel, which at that point I could truly dedicate a lot more time to the channel. I could upgrade my quality of content. It's one of those ones, like if I was able to monetize my channel, or was able to get like Patreon subscribers to where they paid for it, kind of like a lot of these streamers do. I'm telling you, after I upgrade my PC and remake my PC, my first thing, I'd literally find someone, hey, I'm willing to give you like all the money I'm making right now, basically to pay them a salary to create a social media manager, someone that will help me do more video editing and take my videos to the next level, basically would be my very first investment in my stream. I'm telling you that right now. Penguin says, I have no idea how to do fantasy football, but I will try. I mean, it's pretty easy. It's basically, there's a calculation on player performance on field to points. Like usually a lot of teams play PPC, or PPR. I'm sorry, not PPC, PPR, and that stands for point per reception. So basically, like every time Christian Watson catches a ball, it's worth 1 point. Every time he gets 10 yards, add another point. If he scores a touchdown is worth 6 points in the game. It's worth 6 points in fantasy. And so the game, like, the website itself tracks the actual stats and the points, so you don't have to do any of that. But basically what it is just, building your team. What I like about it when I used to play in money leagues and what I miss is we all drafted in person. We were like one of those ones you see on YouTube and TikTok. Everyone shows up. We all come with pamphlets and papers and printouts, and and there's a timer, and you're on the clock just like the real draft. You've got 15 minutes, whatever the time is. Make your pick. And you do snake style 1 to 12, 12 to 1, 1 to 12, 12 to 1. And you sit there until you have however many players you're picking. And so basically, you choose different players from different teams. So you might have Lamar Jackson as your quarterback. You might have Aaron Dillon as your running back. You might have Jacoby Myers as your wide receiver, yada, yada. And you basically compete head-to-head, point versus points against other people. I enjoy it so much. Like, I stopped playing whenever I got kind of cheated out of the money league I played in. And then just at that point, I didn't have as much of an urge to play in free leagues. Penguin Goat says, hey, sadly, I don't have Madden. And that's fine, Penguin, because, I'll be honest, Madden sucks. I hate EA Sports. EA is a terrible gaming company. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. I'm not sponsored. They don't pay me, so I don't care. EA is a terrible game, and Madden has sucked year after year after year. I've been on strike from buying Madden. The only time I play Madden is when it comes out free on like Game Pass, basically, for Xbox. Which I'm trying to get a new Xbox as well, guys, because I have a day one Xbox. But Baltimore Gunny says you have to make your rounds to the other team related to content creators. The Ravens community is very active and welcoming. I'm sure the Packers are, and I would love to do that as well. I've tried to reach out, for instance, to like Ingram Vids. I've tried to reach out to some of these other content creators because, not only I feel like would, of course, definitely improve my content and help me reach a broader market, but I feel like I have a decent amount of football knowledge and know-how to bring to their table to bring a slightly different perspective from them. or to their channel. However, I completely understand there is not really a lot of benefit unless they're watching my videos for them bringing on a smaller YouTuber onto their channel. You know what I'm saying? Gunny, like my ideal dream, and I'm gonna write whenever I write the email to YouTube, which should be here soon while I'm doing my draft coverage. I'll show the email on my YouTube. I plan to write an email to YouTube basically saying, hey, some teams really want to be able to just watch their team on the YouTube package. And YouTube is actually talking about doing this. So for Penguin, for example, you too, Gunny. Let's say you bought the YouTube package to watch just the Packers or just the Ravens games. Well, watching the game is cool. We've seen, and it's something I wrote to the NFL a long time ago. And maybe when I do my email to YouTube, I might put up because I have saved the email that I sent to NFL media, and I got a response about basically, hey, people aren't really liking your broadcasters in like CBS, NBC, like these broadcasters on TV. People love Pat McAfee. People love the Manning brothers. So we're seeing like these different non-traditional football personalities able to succeed while broadcasting the football game. And so basically I approached the NFL with that in mind. Peyton got his contract like that following year. After, of course, they denied me because, who am I, right? Oh, sorry if I cussed. So it's one of those ones. Penguin, wouldn't you kind of love if you could basically tune into the game and it was like Grossi instead of, like you could have a package where, hey, you get the Green Bay Packers game. So you get CBS's broadcast of Green Bay Packers, as well as, you get the choice of, like these large sponsored, coordinated YouTube personalities. So like, case in point, someone like Grossi actually being able to show a Packers game on his YouTube, or a YouTube channel ran by like YouTube itself that Grossi was able to appear on, essentially, would be another good way to go about it. Ingram Raven for the Ravens, for example. I think there's a lot of potential there, and I think it would be really cool to be able to basically be like, hey, YouTube, let's create a channel where it's all about NFL football. And basically, what we're going to do is copy, little copy, but not a lot of ESPN's formats. So, like, with that being said, we could do like, I would love nothing more to find basically like my Skip Bayless. So, like, on case in point, the YouTube channel, not only on game days, but we could have coverage every Monday morning. Catch Levi and Grossi in the morning, and basically like a Skip Bayless, Stephen A. Smith style debate show where we cover various things across the NFL. I forgot the guy that used to run the show, the panel, where they would have four different sports writers from four different cities all on the show with one guy, just, hey, posing questions. And he'd be like, nope, you get 2 points. Nope, you get negative points. And, he would mute them. I think where Jim Rome got his start. And basically, that style of content, but with all of us YouTube creators, essentially. Now, of course, there would have to be licensing and like, a lot of screening for the YouTube channels. But of course, for someone like Grossi, it's a lot easier since he does have a huge channel to get that kind of agreement. But, who am I? Gunny says, I've always wanted to know why there's a huge delay from your chat to the video. I've never seen this before. I'm not sure. My CPU says it's sitting around 50% usage at 60 frames per second, putting out 4.1 kilobytes, so 4G, 60 FPS. It could be, issues. It could be my computer. Case in point, my view count just dropped to 0 again. I don't know if I'm actually at 0. For Fantasy League, Penguin, just make sure you have left a comment on my. I have a video where I'm literally discuss. It was supposed to be a short, but at the time I was having problems actually creating the shorts on my PC because it's different from doing it on your phone. And with that being said, Penguin, just leave a comment, and that's basically my tell of to go back through the comments. Penguin says, I think I have to go bye. That's really sad. Later, Penguin. And Be More, it says, be well. It's a Penguin. So if you're still there, Gunny, I think you're my last viewer here for the day. With Penguin going, definitely we're going to be heading towards the end of the stream here. Baltimore says, Team Keep It Clean is definitely good people. Don't know him, but been sub to him for a while. Maybe Team Keep It Clean, Gunny. Where's my pen? I just want to make sure I take a note. Team Keep It Clean. I want to make sure to check them out, because it's always better. And thank you, Gunny, for dropping in. Thank you for the recommendation on that YouTube channel. It's one of those ones, just like I've talked about a few times. Grossi rating me was a big inspiration for me, and it's something I'm trying to continue the momentum from his raids. And even though my PC is 10 generations old and like literally dying, I'm still trying to, this is like somewhat my dream, basically, to be able to talk about my Baltimore Ravens. Oh, you're right. TKIC is Ingram Vid. You're right. Yeah, I'm subbed to Ingram Vids. I've left a few comments on his videos. I tried reaching out. I think he has an email you can get on YouTube, and I think I reached out to him on Facebook as well. I've got to try maybe Telegram, Twitter a little more and such, and I can try actually maybe tagging him in some of these videos like I did Grossi today. But yeah, I like Ingram. Ingram does a different style than me. He's more about like being breaking on news, and Ingram's one of those ones TKIC where just like Grossi, I'm watching him inspiring and being inspired and learning, but I'm trying to be respectful enough that I'm not copying them or intruding on their stream and channel. I'm not trying to use them to launch myself. Of course, I'd love to collab and work with them, but that's a lot different from, trying to use them. But yeah, I'm subbed to Ingram. I've thought about doing more of Ingram's style of like quick 10 to 15 minute videos and, breaking news while also giving my opinion. But at the same time, it feels like more of a niche market that he's really got. Whereas it seems like more of my niche market is turning into more in depth with deep analysis, kind of. And see, that's what I'm saying. I think my niche, like every time when I talk to someone, almost everyone's usually like, man, it seems like you kind of really know what you're talking about. Not only in this stuff, but like when I talk about actually playing, because I have played a little bit. I played on the semi-pro level at one point, and there's a deep part of me that still would love to play collegiately for someone to pay just for, me to get another degree. But I'm like turning 32 at this point, and I've lost 50 pounds of muscle, so I'm not in playing shape by any means anymore. So I think my playing years are behind me. But I think that's where my value in my stream is kind of headed. More in-depth analysis, deeper looks, and hopefully collaborating with these streamers that, have a little bit bigger bases, but, do different style of things. I do want to kind of go the route like Grossi also, because I'm a huge comedy fan. Tom Grossi comedy is a huge thing. Like legitimately, I have seen every single English-speaking Netflix comedian special there is on Netflix. I've even watched a good bit of them that aren't in English. I love stand-up comedy. I always have. I think my girlfriend would agree. One of my best traits is my ability to make her laugh. Um, I know I don't come off very silly here on the channel, but trust me, I'm an oddball. Um, so it's one of those ones like I'd like to go a little bit that route as well, but I'm not trying to copy his. A very popular route, like on TikTok too, is like kind of like the division thing, like he does. Okay, round up NFC North, like and kind of representing each team. I'm thinking about planning a video series called the AFC Commissioner of the AFC North is what I'm thinking I'm calling the series, and basically acting like, hey, I'm kind of the guy that's like in charge of the AFC North and supposed to make sure, we're the best division of football. And basically be like, guys, what the heck are you doing? Kind of almost that same approach, but a slightly different, very small different take. And Gunny, I appreciate you being here for me, man. It's people like you, Chimera, and Penguin are the only reason I'm still trying to get this going. You know, Everything started whenever I was having like health problems and dealing with stuff, and my girlfriend's car broke down, so she was using my car, and I was stuck at home so much. I'm one of those ones. I'm very efficiency driven. If I'm not putting my time to good use, I feel incredibly bad. So it's one of those ones like case in point, I was playing games at the time and I'm like, well, if I'm playing games at home, why not try doing the stream route? You can make money off it. You can turn a hobby and something you kind of really do enjoy doing into income. And it's one of those ones like I tell everyone, I understand like the chance of you launching streaming, especially in a short window, is like 0.02% chance to make it to like a high level monetized level of streaming. But you can't do nothing if you don't try. I just realized that my addition was spelled wrong. Oh my God. I feel so dumb now on my presentation. Slam my head into. I did audition like adding, not audition like version. Cry. I just spent almost 3 hours with that bad of a spelling error. And it's pretty crazy. We've got viewers coming in now, and of course, we're kind of at the end of the broadcast and the stream today. Whoever my other viewer is that's dropping in, appreciate you dropping in. Are you part of Packers Nation, or are you just viewing? If you're part of Packers Nation, definitely rewind this stream, go back and watch from the beginning, because we laid out a game plan here for the Packers to, truly be contenders for the next few years. I think with that too, guys, I'm going to not stop the stream right now, but I'm going to stop my recording for potentially podcasts. We hit our 3-hour mark. So podcast audience, if you're there, thanks for listening. This was the edition of the Offseason Plan Green Bay Packers edition. I hope you enjoyed my analysis of the cap situation for the Packers, as well as our work with extensions, trades, and cuts. I think I laid a pretty enticing idea for the Packers going forward. I would love to hear your opinion on it. Check me out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Darwin's Raven. We're really trying to make something here out of nothing, guys. With that, for at least today, the podcast, that's D-Rave out, guys. Now, live, I'm going to stick around just for another second longer because, why not, right? I don't want to leave anyone on a hook. I don't know who my second viewer is, even though they're probably nobody. But it's one of those ones. If I got a viewer willing to come in and chat with me, I'll stick around. We're doing a little bit more, I guess, at this point, Q&A, especially revolving around the Green Bay Packers. I'll probably give it like 2 to 3 minutes. If my other chat person doesn't say much, I'll probably end the stream for the day. Again, big shout out to Penguin Goats, Chimera, and Be More Ravens Gunny for dropping into chat today. Y'all are my OGs, man. Y'all the guys like legitimately. I hit the Powerball. I'm coming to find y'all. I'm running low on caffeine here after 8 shots of espresso and a Coke. The life is slowly draining from D-Rave. Um, Again, looking forward, guys. We're gonna, if you're whoever my second viewer is, we're gonna be doing a lot of draft coverage here. A little bit of free agency after we get the franchise tag window done. If you have a team that you like me to do an off-season plan for, leave me a comment, leave me anything. If you haven't checked it out, if you're a Ravens fan, check out State of the Ravens, or you can check out If I Was the GM of the Ravens, which is basically the start of the offseason plan video series where we did the offseason plan for Baltimore. And thank you, Gutty. I thought we put together a pretty decent plan too. There's a lot of good variations we can do with it. It's one of those ones. As a GM, you can't just be looking so solo at a year. You have to be looking at the next like 3 years. And like I said, I understand I'm maybe a little biased towards younger players, and people out of the draft, but it has shown that you can do it on that model. Of course, we did the Buffalo Bills yesterday, so we've got 3 teams now done for the offseason plan series, being the Baltimore Ravens, the Buffalo Bills, and now the Green Bay Packers. I wish Mike, my Bears fan, was here in chat so he could be like, do the Bears next, because the Bears are really enticing. So are the Buccaneers and Saints. Basically, one team starting their rebuild and 2 teams heading for a rebuild, which I think is really exciting. Oh, well, maybe next time Grossi will come and say hi to us and watch the video, or maybe I can get Grossi to watch this later on. We tried to get Grossi on a few different things, but it didn't really work out. My Packers fan messaging me said, yeah, 3rd rounds haven't panned out well for the Packers, so kind of skeptical 3rd round picks, but like we talked about, we're gonna flip those picks around a lot. But with that being said, I think we're officially done here for the stream, Gunny. Again, thank you so much, Be More Ravens Gunny, hanging around basically the entire time with us. If you had a channel, I'd give a shout out to your channel too, Gunny, and tell everyone to come follow you. But we'll see, right? But with that being said, if anyone watches this, thank you so much for coming in, watching everything, and D-Rave out. Yeah, and that's last thing. Grossi is definitely a character. His recaps are hilarious. Like I said, I've followed Grossi for a little bit, especially after the raid. I do enjoy watching. It's one of those ones. I really feel like me and Grossi would have some fun together if I was able to fly up, hang out with Grossi for a few days. Like if I was, a bigger YouTuber, had an actual big channel, I'd fly up to Grossi, man, just to film some videos and have some fun. But later, Gunny, thank you again for coming in. And with that, guys, officially, D-Rave out.